40 records being played on every radio station in the United States is a communication to the children to take a trip, to cop out, to groove. The psychedelic jackets on the record albums have their own hidden songs.
This is a special question. We don't want you to smoke genetically modified ganja. We want you to smoke the real thing. We want you to smoke the natural herb. Some call it marijuana, some call it sensimilla, some call it lamb's bread, and some people call it ganja.
Welcome to another edition of the Adam Dunn Show. I am your host, Adam Dunn, and we are in a packed studio here at the new Metlo Studios. We're high, we're really high, down in the Metlo.
High in the Met.
We have some in-studio guests this week. We have Cole back from Millenium, and also from Millenium, Jaron. I pronounced it right, I think.
Yep, got it right.
Thanks for having us as always.
Jaron.
Yes, thanks for having us.
Somehow I always forget that. I don't know why. And we just saw you didn't come to the Emerald Cup though, right?
No, I was at the Emerald Cup.
I
didn't
see you. I did see Cole.
I saw CC, but I didn't run into you. Yeah.
We just all came back. So last week we were not on the show because of that. Excellent event. Let me just reiterate that for the 10,000th time. Worked out really well. I was a bit not nervous, but I was a little bit like going into it like, how is this going to be with Santa Rosa and everything? But it was weird. I didn't feel that at all when I was there. It didn't feel like it was like, oh, this whole place is fucked. It was like not at all, right? It was
saw some of the signs that were just like, Santa Rosa's strong and some of that sort of stuff. And then we definitely saw some of the devastation a little bit around. Saw a few of the houses burn down. The Hilton we were supposed to stay in, it burned down.
I know. That's what I heard. That's one of the ones I heard. It was funny because I was supposed to be booked there too.
And it was right there. I mean, right in the middle of town.
Which is weird, right?
Yeah. And you didn't see like the whole town just all torched, but it was like that was kind of right there in the middle, and
it's those laser weapons, right?
That's what they were telling us.
That's what we kept hearing the whole time.
That's what I heard from many locals there. They were like, it's lasers, right?
Laser drones, right?
And I'm like, yeah, of course I do. Look at me. You don't think I know that those are laser drones? Bro, of course. But it was, I had one guy who was telling me that basically in a neighborhood that completely burned down except for one house. And it was like grower, not grower, perfect condition. And then the day after the fire, the cops rolled up and handed them a fucking folded up flag. It said, thank you for your service. And she's a high MIT sort of, she's in this, the woman who owns that house is part of the whole Silicon Valley world, but she just didn't understand what was going on. She said, I don't know, there's guys rolled up and gave me an American flag. I'm like, well, none of us were in the service. Like, we didn't do anything. Our house didn't burn down. That's kind of all we did. And strangely enough, they just pulled up, drove away. And then the guy's like, see? You see? So I was like, I don't know if that's proof. I don't know if that's the proof of lasers, but it is definitely weird stuff.
Yeah, they've had supposedly haven't been able to pinpoint a lot of the sources and where it started and a lot of that kind of stuff.
I mean, it was suspicious. Well, the whole thing is about land grab. That's what they were saying. It's like literally they're just looking at all that land as being so valuable, and the only way to get it is to just sort of like to take it, really.
Right,
no one's selling out on that stuff. Besides that, let's not get into any conspiracy nut things right out of the gate. So maybe my friend David Harold Moore will be here. We'll see. He's running around town today. So we might have another guest coming in at the end of the show. We might have even a few more. That's the beauty of this spot. We never know what's going to happen, right? It's like we're right downtown. Shit could get cray-cray in a second.
Never know.
It could. But before we start, should we just bang out all the sponsors? Since we got one right here, so that's easy.
Makes it very
Make them happy right out of the gate so that they can be like, all right, job's done. Now the rest is just gravy. Let's change our format every single week. That's the way we do it. Sometimes we start at the beginning, sometimes in the middle. But if it's in the middle, it's always like, who knows what's going down. Mr. Bean, if you're listening, you obviously we'd love you to call in at 420. But if not, it's okay too. We're not pushing you. So let's start. Let's actually start with you guys. No, let's end with you guys. Fuck you. You guys are here. Fuck you guys. You're right here. Let's start with where you just were. Caesar now. Sounds good. James.
Sorry.
It's okay. Our most dedicated, basically bringing half of our content to the table also is our buddies over at Caesar Now. And the thing about these guys is that they're covering 35 different breeders. And if you're ever trying to deal with 5 breeders, it's already a pain in the ass. So just to deal with 35 of them, keep everything in check, and make us all happy. That's already that's testament to the service that you get from these guys. Also, they will guarantee every single seed that they sell. So if you have a problem with seeds, you can just tell them what's up, and they'll send you a replacement pack. You can also get to their website and check out their auction site, which is seedaholics.com. But you can go straight to the seedsherenow.com. It'll take you right to it. And there you'll have auctions of rare, last seeds found in the bottom of a drawer. Those are the best ones, of course.
Oh, yes.
That was the crazy thing at the show. Did you notice how it was all about the limited seed drop, one-time offer, mad rush to get to the booth?
Yeah, that seemed to be the huge thing this year, was just this, exclusive Emerald Cup only, limited pack only,
right.
That kind of thing. And they did a good job of really getting people excited about it. That's for sure.
But you can do that year-round with Seeds Here Now. You don't have to wait until Emerald Cup and have a one-time drop. It's actually all the time.
It's an all-the-time thing.
In the convenience of your own home. You don't even have to run through this place trampled. So check them out, seedsherenow.com, and listen to the show a little bit later. We'll have James on the show, and he'll give us the whole special lowdown, because they always have so much going on. It's kind of hard to even concentrate on that stuff. Forget about it. We'll move on to the next. Incredibles. Definitely saw them there. Right now in Colorado, it's amazing because edibles really, in my mind, were always kind of like a side thing. I was like, flowers. It should be flowers, and then hash, then edibles. In this town, it's kind of like edibles and extracts are almost beating flower out when it comes to sales because of the tourism and
the tourist market.
Yeah, and also just consistency and knowing that that's what you're going to get. Whereas with cannabis, there's always that like good batch, bad batch, or mediocre batch, or whatever. But with these guys, it's always about consistency. They'd have their own in-house garden, which ensures the consistency, which is, in my opinion, the difference between a successful and unsuccessful edible company is where do you get your material from? If you get your material from yourself, well, then you have nobody to blame but yourself. But you also have potential to have the best of the best. And that's what these guys concentrate on. And you can also go to iloveincredibles.com and check out their store finder and see where they are. They're actually in Nevada now, California, coming to Oregon, I think, coming to Michigan, I think, right? Wasn't that all the news?
Yeah, I'm looking for it.
Somewhere. There's a list. There's a whole list.
Are they doing distillate edibles as well?
I don't think so. I think they're trying to do full spectrum stuff. I mean, I couldn't imagine. It's not really to me, that's almost like when you people think, ooh, it's perfect, it's clinical, but it's also clinically, not really doing it.
Yeah, it's pretty sterile at that point. Obviously, you lose the entourage effect and a lot of stuff going on there. Although, at the same time, when you talk about dosability and everything else and really where a lot of the market's at, it's more and more is getting, processed into piles of distillate and stuffed into pens. It's
the future for large-scale mass production, fortification of products is how I would call it, because it's not going to be it's just going to be like when they're just like, dog food with CBD, blam, they throw it in there. You know what I mean? They're not going to, it's the companies, it's going to be the part where you need to read the label and look at it and go, that's probably not going to work. You know what I mean? But if you smoke a joint at the same time, or make your dog smoke a joint, I guess, but if you smoke a joint near your dog while you give them the thing. No, but in general, if you're, looking at it from a reality point of view of a medicinal thing, you just definitely want to stay full spectrum. If you're looking at it I mean, I feel good knowing that they're going to put CBD into way too many things just for the sake of it, and it's not going to hurt anybody.
Right.
It's just not going to be as beneficial. It's going to be one of those like, well, that was a waste. You know what I mean? And especially when you think about the processing going into distillate compared to hash, you know what I mean, or flour for that matter. There's like, to me, every single step of the processing is kind of taking the soul away from the original plant material a little bit, you know what I mean? And it's kind of like, that's why it's like a witch's brew, and it always works really well. And that's where, if our guest comes later, if David comes, he's the king of that, because he's really focused on whole plant medicine. And it's, he's like a guy who had celiac, so he cured himself with cannabis, and it's kind of like, proof is in the, when people do that, and it's all personal like that, then they tend to be able to relay that message really well,
Agreed.
So, did you guys see Jeremy when you were there? I did not see Jeremy.
Nope.
He was there, though, 100%. Missed you, Jeremy. So Build a Soil with Jeremy Silva. Great company. These guys are, like, so on point. Looks like their website's been updated really nice, too.
Yeah, I was looking at that.
Yeah. See?
Nice work, guys.
Boom. They haven't got... Yeah, they definitely upgraded. But they have everything you need if you want to do things organically from the ground up, literally. Or ground down, I should say. Ground down, ground up. But they have the hard to find nudes, hard to find, well, nudes, hard to find amendments, hard to find materials, IPM. You can get your beneficials through them. And you can also just, if you have any kind of issues, just give them a call because these guys are all super knowledgeable, which is great. And they're here in Colorado, but they ship all nationwide, I guess worldwide technically. It's a lot of times it's the difference between doing things 100% organically and properly or cutting a few corners. And at that point, you know, if you're going to do it, you got to do it. You got to go 100%, you know. So these are your guys, and it's buildasoil.com, or you can go to 855-877-SOIL, talk to maybe a human, maybe a computer, maybe, I don't know what you can talk to, but at least you can use your mouth instead of your keyboard for once. Speaking of using your mouth, if you can get your mouth around a 10-pound tomato, then you might want to start using Ron's Organic Wonder. His Rhizosphere products, his root-based products are just, you know, top-notch. This guy's won multiple world records on tomatoes. Well, I don't know about tomatoes part, but he definitely did on pumpkins and squash. And he seems to have tapped into how these plants respond. And as we all know, yield's not the most important thing. But it's not a bad thing, too. Sometimes it's good when you can get that combination. If you want any kind of, like I said, root-based products, give him a shout. Once again, give me that website because it always confuses me. I'm thinking
WallaceWow.com.
WallaceWow.com.
Wallace, wow.
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 Exactly.
Reminds me of ShamWow.
It's a little ShamWowish.
Wallace,
ShamWow.
wow.
Yeah. But Ron's a super awesome grower, and like I said, contact him. He's getting a lot of hits now, too. He was very happy. He said he was getting a lot from California. And he was kind of like, right around the same time as the Emerald Cup. He's getting a lot of hits because, you know, he's actually the guy who's on the back of the Extreme Gardening package that you've seen forever. So it's kind of like, oh, yeah, I recognize that guy.
Right.
And, you know, they tapped into that. Yeah, man, it's so easy. So easy on the root jokes, right? It's like slamming. But they tapped in on his talent and have had him on the back of a package for years. And it's to testament if you know what you're doing. You know, why not spread it? And he's, like I said, he's one of those awesome growers who loves to help other people work through their problems and stuff. So give him a shout. And then they got these douchebags.
Dun, dun, dun.
Dun, dun, dun. New Millennium.
New Millennium.
They're in the house.
Yes, it's us again.
And like I said, every time when I'm talking about these products, I'm using it myself, and my mom is. And when moms approve, everybody knows there's something about it.
That's the truth, man.
And in general, it's been, you know, it's a good, easy-to-use product, but it's also tweakable, which is nice because a lot of times you feel like if you're like locked in on something and you just try to tweak it and it goes wrong, then it's your fault, of course, because, you know, you didn't follow instructions, and instructions are meant, as growers, we're like almost the worst because most of us are like, you know, it's like when you bought a brand new anything, you don't ever look. You just start slamming on buttons and trying to make shit happen. And,
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean? There's never been like, oh, let me sit down and read the instructions on my new Walkman when I was 8 years old or 9 years old. I was like, no way. You're just jamming in, man, until you figure it out. With the New Millennium, you don't feel like you're going to totally like lose the plot if you tweak it a little bit here and there. And on top of that, seasonal. I like the seasonal part. That's a good way to kind of know where you are on the.
Well, and it really helps people wrap their mind around it a little bit. It feels natural. You know, you're talking spring, it's small veg plants, summer, big veg plants, autumn, flower. You know, so it's it does seem to work out very naturally for folks.
And also, you know, because it's 4 seasons instead of A, B, you're kind of already are mixing it up a little bit right there. Mm-hmm. And I feel like a lot of times when like when I was first selling GH back in the day in Amsterdam in like 95, and it was like, wow, it's a 3-part. I could actually go 2, 1.5, but then I can also go 1, 1, 1, and then it totally. I mean, it was like that to me was amazing. And now we're looking at, like, it's almost like making bubble hash. Back in the day, we had one screen, you know what I mean? And we were all excited. And then we had 3 screens, and then we were kind of more excited. And then we had 7 screens, and then, you know what I mean? Kind of, and then you get to a point where it's too much.
Too many.
And then you're like, wait a minute, now maybe 6 screens is enough. You know what I mean? So if you have you kind of always eliminate the one that's just not really worth it because it slows everything down.
Yep.
And I think with food, it's similar where if you have too many products going on and you're kind of like at a certain point, a lot of times certain plants just don't need every single product. Sometimes they're like, actually, the first 2 applications is more than enough. You know what I mean? And so, yeah. And then you guys now have a new product, which is awesome.
Yeah, we do.
And but what's your website before we even go way further? Because it's New Millennium Nutrients, right?
Yeah, newmillenniumnutrients.com. However, Millennium is spelled our spelling. I'll say it. Some might call it incorrect, but we'll call it the New Millennium spelling. It's with 1 N and 2 instead of 2 N's. So figure that out, folks.
Figure that out.
Also, checking was wondering if you guys are available in the UK.
You know what? That's actually a great question. I don't think we currently are, but it's something that could be in the works. Yeah.
There's an opening right there.
Yeah. We got an
looks like
opening
we're
right
looking from New Millennium reps.
All right, here we go.
Bam.
The UK New Millennium rep.
Yep, all right, we're going to Spanibus. We'll see everybody at Spanibus.
Crazier things have happened, right?
It's true. Crazier things have happened. But no, this carbo product's real cool. It's called Carbonaria. It's basically just a sugar product. It's used through flour all the way through flush. Use it about 5 mils a gallon. It's like 30 different sugars in there. You pop it open, you look at it. It almost looks like you could spread it on your pancakes. It's real syrupy, real sweet smelling, real amino smelling.
Yeah, I noticed it right away too because I'm used to that kind of neutral, typical carbo load vibe thing where you're like, okay, this is just some. It's like you feel like you're giving bodybuilder stuff or something. You're just like, this has got nothing but just bulky, you know. And then this one definitely seemed like it was enough, especially when you're like I always like things that are like a flush. Like I like the same with the Ruby Fulvic. It's in a sense, it's like you can use it like standalone-ish and know that it's given just enough that it's not like you're going completely like it's not sucking all the nutes out or changing it in any way, shape, or form. It's giving it just enough to keep it on the track, you know.
Yep. And I will say that we just got a little flour back that had a really solid run on it, and that Sage and Sour that we brought around last time had a much more perfumey terpene profile to it, and it came out just way gassier this time. Nothing else changed except for adding the carbo there, so it definitely seemed to have really perpetuated some unique terpene profiles.
Yeah, and I mean, if the key is that it doesn't, like, because there's a lot of products out there now that are like putting terps in, and I'm kind of getting all like, what is going on? What's going on with all the, like, people are always like, it seems, and then as a grower, I'm like, why would you do that? Like, you know, to me, that doesn't seem logical. Like, it seems almost like, okay, you know, because I mean, plenty of people over the years have said, like, and then there's people who say they do it, and maybe it works in their mind, or, you know, I'll give it Coca-Cola on the last day, or whatever. They're like some sugar just dumping it in there, and people would tell me they do it, and it will, I could see it working to a point of, like, the plant might suck it up for 1 day or so, but it's not going to impart anything.
Direct flavor profile through it. No. That's
not before killing it. Not
even if it did, I don't want it to.
Yeah, well,
I mean,
exactly. And I'm not trying to get.
Well, and sugar is not known to burn really well either. So if you get like literally, and that was one of the funny things in Europe that people would spray with like 7-Up. You know what I mean? And let it dry, and it'd be like when you burnt it, it would just be like black. You know what I mean? Like sooty black stuff. Smoky. You'd be like, I think there's sugar sprayed on.
Fucking sugar on there or something.
That's what I mean. So people like don't understand that that's like totally opposite of what we're trying to do. We're trying to suck those out.
Yeah.
So we're not getting like dark ash at the end anyway.
Right. And that's definitely part of what, you know, this or other quality sugar products do. It's right there at the end when you're losing the chlorophyll, when you're senescing and everything's going out, kind of giving it some ready-to-use plant food, giving it some things to charge out the rest of the soil, just to help it finish out. It isn't about, you know, some kind of imparting of a sweet flavor via through, or even like, you know, some of the products out there, the different sweet products and things like that, I always found to be kind of funny.
Like you're saying sweet, like the sweet.
Did I say that by name?
Well, it's kind of hard if you're trying to explain it. Well, the problem is I think people take it too literally. Like they're like, oh, need sugar. You know what I mean? It's like, well, theoretically, it's like a lot of stuff. Like it's not about it's about the plant doing it itself. And if it can do it itself, then you're going to notice it. But if you're trying to like introduce it, pretty hard as far as like just getting it in, plant might take up a little bit that it can, but for the most part, it's not really accessible for it.
And that's the whole goal with what the plant, allow it to express its own phenotypes that it wants to, that it's, genetically capable of doing. It's not about adding other plants, terpene profiles, or anything else. It's about letting those genetics reach their full potential.
Yep, and that's just in general what the line does a great job of, and the thing that I was most impressed of right off the bat, not only in this product and Winter Frost and some things like that, but the line in general is the way that it individualizes as opposed to homogenizes. There's definitely some lines out there that you might as well grow one strain because it all comes out similar enough that it's like, well, that was kind of a pain in the ass.
Like Flow is a good example.
Yep.
Like 5 people grow Flow, and it's like 5% off of each other. There's it's kind of, occasionally you get somebody who really dials it in maybe, but for the most part, and what would be the dialing it in would be to figure out how to make it less leafy. You know what I mean? Because it's that kind of plant. Like, it just is leafy, right? Mm-hmm. So if you can get it out, it's like, but I've seen people grow it where they actually get it to come out of that. You know what I mean? And then there's only a little bit of leaf coming off the actual bud, and it's above and beyond it instead of being all just trapped in some like high nitrogen overrich. Because most people overfeed plants. I mean, that's just kind of
that's what they love to do.
That's the standard. And even it's funny. I look at old photos of old runs, and I can tell where I have overfed just by the photo now. And like at that moment in time, it was looking great in my head. You know what I mean? But then if I look back, I'm like, oh man, what were you thinking, dude? Look at those things. They're like way overfed. You know what I mean? And it's just because we all love to. Well, most people are locked in on the idea that, the more they feed, the bigger they're going to get.
Bigger buds, man.
But in the reality, I noticed a lot of times when I use less, and I feel like if you take your cost into effect, because you should, as part of the bigger picture, if you're spending more and you're getting that not necessarily the same amount in return over it, you're guaranteed getting less quality just because the plant's totally over, at that point, using probably, it's almost like overeating, if you overeat, it doesn't help you at all, it hurts you in the long run, you're better off to just eat sparingly and let your body kind of burn it all off and just kind of.
Totally. Well, and I think a lot of these too, they make more plant matter, but they don't necessarily make more oil, and I'm like going, well, I don't want all that, I'm just looking for the oil anyway, so why do I want to have these big fat flowers and the same amount of oil that could be on a nice small tine flower,
Yeah, and usually you notice it's like whenever there's, 3 of the same plants, one bigger than the rest at the end, usually the little plant is just more resin per square millimeter or whatever.
For sure.
Yep. That's the one that stays in the personal jar. That's for sure.
And so you guys weren't repping at the show, though?
No, we were just walking the show.
Just cruising around, seeing everybody, checking the show out.
What about next year? So now that we talked about a little bit possibilities, I'm sure. I mean, there's no way Bo and Lee don't want to be there secretly. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, I would say there's definitely.
And I think you guys. How is your footprint in California though? Is it kind of small or?
Getting bigger every day.
Is
getting better? Getting better. Yeah.
In southern and northern, or kind of mostly focused in one or the other, or
a little of both.
Yeah, a little of both. Yeah. Not
any bigger outdoor people picked up on it, or has it been mostly just indoor? Because it's
mostly just indoor. Yeah, I mean, and in part because so many of the big outdoor guys are really, even talking about like the Build the Soil, very focused on organics and things like that. Not saying that we don't have a couple of products that they definitely could use and could take advantage of, but we're by no means a fully organic product. We've got it's a synthetic base with a bunch of excellent organic additives, but we definitely don't have a ton of people using it outdoor. We have some more in Oregon actually. I have a couple smaller farms in Oregon that have been using it outdoor. They're doing well with it. So
yeah, I mean, just out of proxy because we have it. Of course, I've tried it on and definitely it's for outdoors. For the most part, you want to try to be as organic as possible.
Sure.
But I have used them in a pinch and noticed, it was 100% applicable, so that's not a problem. But I guess, you got there you really want to take cost into effect.
Yep. No, but I've definitely used it outdoor as well, and it's very effective. It's just not, we don't have as many outdoor users using it. Obviously, a lot of commercial guys here in Denver and Colorado, several commercial guys out in the Oregon area, California, Nevada. But yeah, no, every day we're getting more of a footprint, that's for sure. So every day.
And so obviously I know from the shop, but you guys ever worked on any commercial grows, or has it been mostly from like, have you guys worked inside any larger scale, like on your own, besides out of the
Yeah, definitely.
going through with the product and stuff like that? I mean,
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I've obviously been personally growing for a long time, and I originally started in a commercial grow up in Fort Collins, was where I kind of originally came in the industry, and then went and ended up working at Way to Grow Retail for a number of years after I'd actually had a small farm too in Fort Collins. So a lot of our commercial
So you worked at the Fort Collins shop? Or?
Yep.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, it was one of the
That's the
original ones
original,
up there.
right? That's the original shop.
Yep.
Awesome. I mean, that was the thing, is Corey's family at that point in time was definitely the probably the premier of all shops, I'd say, as far as just
For sure it was, man.
You know, what I liked about Corey the most is the fact that I think it was Tyson who was like, I was like, how's it working for Corey? And he goes, I would come in here and he'd be sweeping the bathroom out and shit like that. And I go and then he knew that it was it was good to work for that guy. You know what I mean? And that's kind of how I feel as a guy who's been a boss for many different businesses and stuff. It's like, you got to go by example, you know what I mean? And good and bad, of course. But I usually do the bad example. But in general, that kind of attitude, works in that industry. And that's the thing, is that I think there's it's going to be scary for the grow shops in the next 5 years, just because people are turning into robots and they just rather, no one's scared anymore, so they'll order from Amazon because it's cheaper, you know what I mean? Whereas before it was all like, I ain't going to have my name attached to nothing. So they'd go to the grow shop on the, rent a van to go to the grow shop back in the day, just because you didn't want your name, you didn't want the plates ran when you pulled up or something, and you bought way more than the average guy, So those kind of things are less, people are just becoming, like, the guards are going down in all ways, shapes, and forms. So I'm like, it's going to get hard, because between that and then mainstream shops picking up on it. And I think Walmart has 1,600 products now that are cannabis related online. Not in the store.
Right.
But still in the store you can find like dab tools.
I was going to say, I saw some shitty rosin presses, 1,000-watt cheap channel lights, and all kind of shit on there.
No.
Yeah, so over 1,600 products online. So that just shows you that they're definitely warehousing and moving GH and other products and stuff like that slowly. I mean, they're gonna. I don't know if they are right now. Don't quote me on that one, but they will, because that'll be the first ones, because it'll be the ones that are, pick upable by for their kind of price. And then, of course, how are you going to compete? Because you're like, I think every grow shop already works in such a crazy discount zone anyway.
Low margin.
Every single guy's got some level tiered 6 kind of discount, you know what I mean? Like, you don't know who I am, you know what I mean? And then you're like, oh, okay. And then, as I've seen from both sides, it's a rough one, because you're working on thin margins, heavy, bulky stuff. But,
it's a bitch to ship.
But it is endless, you know what I mean? That's the one bonus of it. It is like, hey, I need some pH down. There's no like, I'm gonna not get pH down. It's like garbage bags, toilet paper.
Right, they're all consumables.
Certain things you're like, I'm not gonna resist this. There's no way I can resist the, I don't want to spend money on that. Are you spending money on that? Gas for your car, the basics of getting them from A to B.
Yep.
And you'll avoid everything else. You won't get your brakes done, or you won't get this done or that done, but you will have to get the gas. There's just no way around.
There's no way around
paying
that.
your damn phone bill. Those kind of fucking
man.
fucked up things, and you're like, they got me by the balls. I would love to not pay this,
Right.
But in general, yeah, I don't know, grow shops may be numbered in the sense of like really profitable, because it's crazy too. You've seen also in the heyday, it just be like a mountain of money at the end of the day, right? You know what I mean? Like, you'd be like, holy shit, I can't believe we made this much money in one day. And it's just because a couple big customers rolled in and just dumped out 50 grand each or whatever, and it's stacked. And sometimes I'd walk in at the end and be like, damn, I should get a grow shop. But then the expenses, if you can imagine them going like, ka-chunk, 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 you'd be like, oh, they're down. There's a little fucking micro stack by the end of it all, because you are paying the price. And I think for a lot of people, opening a grow shop was just an excuse to fucking get cheap shit for themselves to cover their costs, because they were spending so much money on grow shops.
100% it was originally. And there's still a lot of them out there. I mean, the reality is there's less and less, because that's not a true business model.
Yeah.
And so now if you're not really operating a business, you're not sticking around. I mean, the price points aren't what they were.
That's what I noticed
anymore,
in Cali, which
so
I was surprised, is that there's still a lot of small grow shops. It didn't seem like there was any. I mean, I'm sure I didn't go out and search.
Sure.
But you know how when you're pulling in on the 101 there and you got all this boom, 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 it feels like you're just coming into the hub because Santa Rosa is pretty deep in the game as far as equipment suppliers and stuff like that.
Yeah. Big Daddy.
Yeah. And then you see the reservoir guy with the fucking
actual shop.
huge reservoirs and stuff, and you're like, holy shit, that's fucking big. You know what I mean?
Oh,
And it's
yeah.
like, that's just what they're showing you. They can get you bigger.
Oh yeah, I mean, when you got 100 or 200 gallon baby pools in stock as pots, which are not, I mean, they're actual pots, they're not even baby pools.
Yeah.
You know, there's something going on in the area.
Oh, man, there's like 250,000 bladders out in the back, and you know what I mean, and shit like that. Where you're just
Yeah.
like, oh man, you guys are definitely
I mean,
thinking big.
Yeah, Big Daddy's is literally, it's like an old diesel shop or something. I mean, that's the biggest bay doors I've ever seen, the biggest single hydro building I've ever seen. I mean, massive, at least 10 extra large fucking bay doors, things like 40 foot tall.
But then there's still a lot of little ones around. When you go around, you drive around the neighborhood, and you're like, man, there's a lot of small shops, and you'd almost think that they wouldn't. But then you realize, like, I bet every one of those is a guy who just the same deal. Like, was just like, fuck, I spend $100,000 a month at the grow shop. Like, why should I?
Yeah.
Why don't I just buy a grow shop and then I'll spend $50? You know what I mean?
Yes.
And that's kind of where a lot of that product went.
Of course, his margin is now thin, and also his other margin is much thinner than it used to be as well. So not quite the model it once was.
Yeah, and I think, the prices are just. Today they put out the prices again. We didn't get to hear. Today is the 6 month. Every 6 months they put out the new wholesale prices.
Oh, really?
So I haven't heard yet, but I am betting around $1,000 because it was $1,200 last time. 1,300. Was $1,300 last time.
Let's just hope it didn't go below 1,000, honestly.
I don't think they will. Just artificially to kind of keep people from just committing suicide right away. 'Cause
Right. Just off.
It'll be like, I mean, it's literally a third of the model of 5 years ago. You know what I mean? If you were writing something 5 years ago, you'd be 2,800 and you can get it all day long. You know what I mean? And then by now it's already, if it was down to 900, you'd be like a third at that point. You know what I mean? So but we all predicted this too. You know, I mean, nobody didn't see this coming. This is pretty obvious.
Right.
But nationwide, I mean, Cali, looking at 500 to 800 this year. You know, if you're there, it's like, fuck.
That's crazy, dude. It's bad.
Yeah, well, it's weird too because we all wished it secretly. Like, man, I wish pounds were like 5. In our minds.
Right,
now it's actually going to happen, and none of us are really that stoked. We're like, well, that's kind of a ridiculous. And the biggest problem, in my opinion, is that people will treat it like a $500 thing. You know what I mean?
Right.
Instead of like what it was. But to think like some stuff would go between, $3,000 to $5,000 a couple of years ago, and now all of a sudden,
Oh, man.
500 to 1,000. It's like, wow, it's a deep cut.
Yeah, it's a massively deep cut. And like you said, it's kind of shitty because a little bit of the reverence has been lost with it. It's just, the reality is there's a lot of people that would still love to smoke what's in my ashtray, and it's just, at one time it was definitely, we were a little more careful with it, I guess is what I'd say.
Well, yeah, but the crazy part is, though, is if you smoke weed with people who aren't really in the scene, they're smoking a lot of shitty weed. Like,
Oh, yeah.
holy shit.
A ton of shitty weed.
There's a lot of shit weed.
Like, you're
out
like,
there.
wow, this is so bad. Like, this is what you smoke. Like, even my friend, too, who lives down south
Sure.
in Alamosa, all the people there are like, because he's smoking a CBD weed and it's way better than their THC bud. You know what I mean? 'Cause they're pulling out some stuff and he's like, wow, you guys are really smoking this. And it's just, it is like, even though there's a lot of quantity, the quality is very like far and few between. It's funny. I always compare it to like hip hop back in the '90s, how it was so good. And then it just kind of turned to shit later because there was so much more of it.
Sure.
And then once it became like massive amounts of different stuff, it just all kind of like, you had to really know who, like, pick and choose. You know what I mean? It's kind of with anything.
Right.
I think anything kind of fits that model with weed because it's such a. Sometimes people can do a really good job without even knowing what they're doing. That's the funny part. And then there's other people who can think they know exactly what they're doing and fuck it all up, top to bottom. You know what I
Yep.
mean? And it's like, wow, like.
Yep.
Just
No, it's not hard to find weed. It's just hard to find good weed. And I know that might sound really strange to a lot of
Even-
people. We're sitting here in Colorado, but that's the reality.
Colorado has like the worst reputation when you're in Cali. It's kind of fun because everyone there is just like, and I feel it. I understand because they can definitely grow better outdoor weed than we can on quantities, 100%. But there's also a lot of people that just don't. This are like, yeah, they're growing a lot of weed, but it ain't necessarily that good, and just they don't, because they're in California. They also kind of have this like they're in their own bubble too.
Sure. Yep.
And like I totally admit Colorado has shitty weed, but it's also mostly handling than everything else. It's all like bad handling, dry,
Bad curing, bad handling for sure.
yeah, mostly. That's like, I mean, almost every time. But I mean, of course, then there's bad selection. Those are the things that can usually be avoided. But in Cali, it's just quantities that sometimes don't always dictate. Like I just showed you that bud, and I won't name it because I'm not going to badmouth any people. But some friends of mine gave me some bud, and I loved it as far as getting free bud. But then I was like, oh man, this shit is like rock hard. So it's like, I don't like to smoke stuff that I think is full of PGRs. But
Can't blame you.
Unless I have to, of course.
exactly, unless it's for free and I'm stuck somewhere. No, and it didn't taste that bad. It just was like, it's like they're like, of course, the things that we thought we liked. Like it's just weird. Like with weed, it's like now we like looser bud because we trust it more. You know what I mean? Whereas, and then with like with hash, it's like you want saucy, terp separating from crystal. That's what we want now.
Definitely.
A year and a half ago, everyone would be like, "Dude, that's all buttered up. I don't want that." You know what I mean? We wouldn't even know that that's what was happening because there just wasn't that knowledge out there. Now all of a sudden, it's like that's exactly we're mining for crystals over here. Everybody's looking for diamonds, and it's getting quickly. You see how quickly that's developing, right? Like went from like tiny little crystals, like look at that, you know what I mean, to like holy shit, like giant, humongous monsters. Which my friend Sasquatch, he's always posting pictures, and I'm just like, damn. Like, and I saw him at the show, and he had a couple strains. He had one that from Unknown Prophet that was created just giant crystals, ridiculous, and it took like 2 weeks. So there's all this like, it's a patience game. Now it's again handling.
Right, we're back to that.
And then you're back to atmosphere. Like, where do you live? Oh, he lives in Oregon. Not here, you know what I mean?
Yep.
I don't know if you get that same thing to do the same thing here, maybe. Or the opposite, maybe it goes better, It's like, we always have really good hash-making conditions. That's why I always tell everybody, like, we kind of got you beat in the hash-making conditions. You guys got us beat in the growing conditions when it comes to flower that you can actually turn into product that can go somewhere. Because ours, by the time it gets from A to B, it's already fucked, in my opinion. Even in my own weed. Like, even when the stuff that I'm trying to take care of doesn't really last. Like, once I take it out and open it up and roll a few joints, it's pretty much starts to become harder to, like, there's like a sweet spot.
Doesn't stay brand new for very long, does it?
It's like a sweet spot for like about 6 days or something like that. And then after that, it kind of gets to like, you better smoke this shit.
Yeah,
So,
definitely.
Better get rid of this.
did you see any products when you were there at the Cup, at the Emeralds? They kind of, like, did you go to that demo? Did you go to the demo tent?
I did. There was definitely some cool demos going on. Green Bros has a couple of cool products out that I saw. Obviously, Rosentech was there, had some cool new stuff out that I was looking at.
Did you see those gigantic vessels that kid was selling for like $75,000?
No, what are they?
Just big stainless steel, sort of. I didn't even get into it. All I walked by, I heard 75,000 and 125,000, and I just kind of kept walking because I was like,
Damn.
These are whatever they are. They were like steam kettle type things, or I don't know exactly what they were using them for, but they were looking like people who were taking it way too seriously. Like, all right, guys, we went from like 1/4 inch to like 1.5 feet in diameter.
Massive pieces, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And then it was mostly rosin in there, and then. Oh, did you guys see the CO2? I didn't see it there. I just saw it online. The CO2 trimmer thing.
I haven't seen that, actually.
So it was like a trimmer that had like a cartridge, like a piece that would go in the middle of it, and you basically would connect a CO2 to that, and then you would like open it up on the tank for like 40 seconds while it was turning, so it would turn it real brittle, and basically get it down to like 14 degrees or something like that. So it was 14 degrees inside this tub as the tub was turning. So it was kind of like the Tom's tumble trimmer combined with CO2, but it wasn't from Tom's. It was another company. And I mean, it was almost like I was just thinking of all the resin that would just fall off that shit at the same time, because it's pretty much what you want to do to get the heads to fall off too. So I was kind of like, as a hash making thing, it's kind of cool.
Sounds
like
cool.
out of the gate, like not as a trimmer though. As a trimmer, I was a little bit nervous.
That's what I was going to ask. Is it meant to make hash or trim weed, or what's it doing?
Trimmer, apparently.
Well, it's for trimming, and the idea is that because it's super cold, it's going to make the leaves super brittle, and you're going to break off really easily. Which,
along with all, like you're saying, the trichome heads.
yeah, because I think of it as like extremities first, and like the heads are way smaller than the leaves, so they're going to be the first things that get really cold, and then the leaves are going to get, because there's a lot more surface area, so that's going to take longer to flip it around. I was like, but as a hash maker, man, that could be the shit right there. It was like way, and way over designed with a pretty small area too. Like they were talking like 4 pounds of fresh material, about a pound of dry. But when you looked at the actual thing, you were like, maybe more like 1.5 pounds to 2 pounds wet, down to half a pound if you're lucky, dry, and you have to load it and use CO2 and blast it and then hit it again and with another thing and blast it. So I was like, it's a little bit much.
Yeah, it sounds like a little bit much. And then I also think just about those the little stems that I just absolutely hate, that I like to get all the way at the bottom. That the leaves would break all the way to that point, and then you get that nice fat little stem sitting right there. Where the hell does that go?
It still said 85% done. So that means you still have to do 15%.
Right.
So I mean, by the time
by the time I go through that, I mean, fuck, I feel like I'm
not a big fan of auto trimmers of any type. I mean, I'm still not sold because. Who we got calling in? What time is it? 4:20. Oh my god! What is he on time or something like that?
Holy crap!
Holy cannoli! Is this Mr. James Bean himself or what?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Wow! Look
James
at you.
Bean on the scene.
On time. Well, that's good. You got some rest.
I'm always on time.
I know. Well, sort of. I mean, or not at all. You're just not even here at all. That's the other end.
Exactly. See, if we look back in history, I'm either on time, on point, all the time, or just doing.
Or just wrong day. Don't know what day it is, or something like that. Exactly. So, did you rest?
I see the new Millennium guys are in the house, huh?
They are sitting right here, hanging. Did you get some rest?
Yeah.
You get some rest after that big long week of traveling?
Working on it, but we've got Harvest Cup on the other side of the world this weekend, so getting ready for that.
You leaving tonight or tomorrow?
It's a 12-hour flight, so tonight.
12 hours? Where are you going to fucking London?
Well, since I'm in
Tokyo?
the Grants Pass area, I've got they don't have any direct flights to Massachusetts, and so we have to go to like SFO and then over to Massachusetts.
Yeah, that's out there in Worcester, I believe, right outside of Boston. Worcester.
Yes, that's right. That's
Yeah,
right.
Worcester, Gloucester. So that'll be cool. It's a New England show. So you got, have you got G or anybody coming, or is there anything fun like that happening?
No. Tech might show up, but those guys are all busy right now. G's not coming out for many things. I tried bribing him left and right, but
I know.
He'll come out when he wants to. Like I keep telling him, I'm like, this is your time. Get your money while you can. Like, just come here and sign T-shirts, and I'll give you like X amount of dollars. And he still was just like.
So you're basically getting ready for a very cammy weekend, I would assume. My predictions.
But at the same time, it's with us going coast to coast like butter and toast. It's the first time that some of these breeders will have been back in that region. So say like Crockett or Exotic, like he hasn't gone to the east yet.
Oh, nice.
Where High Times hasn't had a cup yet there, or a successful cup. Half these guys, half these brands haven't been there, and so when we introduce them, they're like, "Wow, yeah, I want some of this, want some of this, want some of this."
Nice.
Because they haven't seen it. All they've had is the Kenny stuff that's currently around them, so they like a difference. They like that fruity, flavorful stuff.
What's the name of this thing anyway? This event?
The Harvest Cup.
Yep.
Harvest Cup. Okay, cool. And this is the first one, or this is a?
No, I'm going to say this is fifth or sixth. They've been doing it for a minute.
Nice.
But one of my main guys, Tyler, is going to be speaking there tomorrow to give us some speaking time. We'll have a 10x20 set up. Of course, we'll have all the brands out going and whatnot. So
I'll definitely hit up all my New England buddies and tell them to kind of head up there and check you guys out. I'm pretty sure Jordan and those guys from Tetrahydro Club will be there anyway. So keep an eye out for them.
Oh, very cool.
Yeah, for sure. So what do you got? What do you got going on for any kind of crazy drops going? Like exclusive harvest only limited edition super drop. Nothing like that.
Not necessarily for there, but we do have a bunch. We do have a bunch of exclusive drops. So we just got in the THC stem stock.
Mm-hmm.
So that gives we got 14 different strains of that have been going out. Those were a real good. Those had a real good launch at the Thermo Cup.
Nice.
The Sage Master Select stuff has been real nice. That had a real good launch at Emerald Cup as well. I think we've got 3 or 4 different strains from the Sage Master himself.
We got 4 there now, I think. Yes.
Nice.
Yep.
What else you got? What else you got?
Excited about that. Well, Canorado was nice enough to drop me with a whole bunch of goodies before he left. So we'll have the Canorado stuff online next week. Got about 350 packs of those. Various goodies that haven't been released to the public yet. We also picked up the Crockett's new six new regular strains. We got the Swamp Boys 6 new strains that will launch next week as well. So a bunch of guys that were dropping at Emerald Cup. If I got exclusives with them or whatnot, we pick up the gear that they don't sell and then we bring it back. In fact, one of the hottest ones we've got is going to be the Duke Diamond Dominion Seed Company stuff.
Yeah, I heard a lot of good stuff about Duke Diamond. Obviously, got a lot of good press out there, man.
Yeah, and that
really good breeder. I'd say probably my top 3 of guys who just like work the plants and have steps and are just doing it for the right way and the right reasons.
That's his weed right there. See, that's the only weed that I took back with me. Basically, I was like, well, I'll take some of that for sure. So
what'd you get? 287.
He gave me a melange there.
That's nice.
What was that skunk cross that everyone's flipping out about, right?
Yeah. What was that skunk cross?
I gave some to. He's got a lot of skunk crosses, but probably the local skunk, which is the local age cross, the basic skunk. Mm-hmm. Then he had the capital G. He had the polecat. He had quite a few, 12 or 14. We'll have a bunch. I gave him the 187 obsolete. He said that's probably the best flower he smoked in a year and a half. Props to Duke.
Nice. No, like I said, a couple of my buddies out there, like Two-Tone, some other folks, definitely got it. Tried the flower, got the seeds, really stoked on it. So congrats to him. Nice work to the Duke.
Yep. Duke is, like I said, definitely killing it. When I went to visit his facilities, like he had this one corner of a shop that was just kind of like the plants did not look great. Needless to say, I was like, damn, what's like, ugh. I was like, what's going on over there? And he's like, oh, that's my torture chamber. I was like, what? He was like, I torture him much more strange. Try to get him to see if I can get him to flip. He was like, if I get him to hermaphrodite on me, it means you got to work him more. If not, then it means you're okay. He was like, see this one? It's been in a solo cup for 4 months.
No shit.
Damn. He's like, oh yeah, he had a bunch of. He's like, this one I give way too much nitrogen to. This one I'm giving way too much of this to.
I just fucking torched
like, I'm just trying to get
awesome.
Him,
I like it.
Yeah, just trying to see if he can get him.
Jared just torches him on his own. He just does his own torture, but he hasn't even thought that through.
I didn't.
I never thought about that. I just did just the torture part. No, I'm just kidding. No, so he definitely, his weed was. Well, the funny thing is, so he gave me some buds the first night when I was there, and the classic hotel situation where, like, the minute you're not supposed to smoke weed, for some reason those joints burn perfectly. And his weed was so good, like it wouldn't, like even when it was getting really, really low, it was burning great. And I was like, God damn it, why does it burn so good? Like it makes me just have to keep smoking it because it was burning so good. And I was like, well, if it's burning this good, I can't not smoke it, right? But then again, I can't smoke it because then they moved me from a room with a fucking balcony to another room without a balcony, which I don't know who they were. I don't know who they thought I was, but I was like, what? No balcony. So, and then the weed. Yeah.
Oh no, I definitely had you at the balcony the first night. So.
I know, and then weirdly enough, I had the first night and the third night. They did give me a balcony, but they couldn't give it to me on the second night, and I was like, what? This doesn't even make sense. So because I had 3 different bookings. And I had 4 bookings at one point. You had booked 1, they had booked 2, and I had booked 1 or something like that.
Where'd you guys end up staying?
At the Doubletree.
The Doubletree.
Doubletree.
Yeah, we ended up just a little bit north in Windsor. You know?
Shout out to the Doubletree.
Shout out. Big shout out.
Shout out to the Doubletree.
I definitely did not smoke weed in your room. I was just kidding. That was a totally joke. I make those jokes all the time.
Please don't dock my platinum status.
It was definitely not under James Collins' name. I guarantee you.
No, definitely.
Definitely.
I guarantee.
So
like
you're
pointing the finger at me. Damn, just put me on Front Street. All right.
So off to Boston, and then New Year's is going to be rolling around, and then what's the first? Oh, are you guys doing? You guys are doing the Indo, right? Somebody's doing that in January, right?
Of course. That brings me to my next thing, which we'll have Chris on here probably in the next week or so.
Cool.
Tell us all about the Indo Expo, but one of Denver's longest running, best shows that I've been to would be the Indo Expo. They're just
Agreed,
I was just talking
100%.
to Stefan
Yeah,
about
sure.
10 minutes ago.
Yeah, it's funny because it's like
They're just
they've
well
got
ran.
this.
They're just organized.
Well, they have the small
Built out
show
points,
kind of
shipped
covered.
together.
Yeah, they actually go out and they make it happen too. That's the one thing I like about it. Where some of these other shows are like, oh, if we do it, people will just come.
Mm-hmm.
They actually go out and actively
No.
get people there.
They bring the people and
Yep.
they give the right environment for it as well. It's a good show.
Well, what I like too is the minute that they introduced hemp, they really made it a better show because they had like 90 more people involved, 90 more booths, and they were all in those side rooms and kind of like a little bit in the main room, but mostly like made that whole side thing open up, and you were like, okay, there is a whole industry here that it's not cannabis,
Right.
and you don't even need to be licensed. You can actually get right into it. And so from that point of view, it was like, it was also medical, and it was patient orientated and all that kind of stuff. So it was kind of cool.
They made no bones about it. It's like, yeah, it's a cannabis show. You know what I mean? It's a hemp show. It's the first place I saw live plants. You know, it's the first place you James guys were started selling seeds there. I was like, fuck yeah, this is happening. This is amazing. So no, that was good. Oh, and also they're doing a Bay Area show this year, which I know that they had just signed on right before the Emerald Cup because I saw them both there and they were super stoked about it. So
Nice.
that'll be in April. Should be good.
Breaking news right there. That's breaking news.
Breaking
Got some breaking news. Boom, 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 boom.
Breaking news on the Adam Dunn
Yeah,
show.
yeah, it's Bay Area. I didn't have exact details on it. It should be up on their website though. So yeah,
Very cool.
looking forward to that, no doubt.
Yep, and of course we'll have 2 or 3 panels. I got to call Mike here in a few and see what panels he wants to do. But we'll have 2 or 3 panels. I know that Duke has said that he wants to do a panel all by himself. He'll sit there for an hour and take questions. This from the guy 2 years ago. He could barely get on the phone, but now he's comfortable sitting in front talking to lots of people. I know that JJ's going to be on the panel. You of course, Dunn, we're going to moderate them all.
Yeah, the panel.
I think
the panel that we did at the Emerald Cup worked out really well. It was it's DJ Short, Sonny, and Fletch from Archive.
Nice.
And it was pretty cool because everybody's, we're all. I mean, it wasn't like we weren't fully agreeing, which is good. You don't want to totally agree; that's boring.
Right.
But at the same
Makes
time, it
sense.
wasn't like complete and utter mayhem or something where we're all. Because I think everybody was like Sonny said that he thought that DJ Short, it was his best one because DJ Short tends to bring the controversy up. So I don't know why. He has he has a tendency to
He does.
make everyone go like, "What?
Stir shit up.
What are you talking about?" And then all of a sudden it goes on. But this time he was pretty good. It was it was pretty well. He got his.
Where's the weed? Where's the smoke? Where's the smoke?
Well, him and Colin that was almost blows were going down. So. Which is also entertaining in its own way, but for the average guy out there who doesn't know what's going on, it's a little bit weird. So, but no, that worked out really well. And are you going to get recordings of that, James? What's going on with that?
Yes, I talked to the guy. He didn't,
saw you.
The guy was just recording stuff, but
I saw you talking to the
did get
guy. I
his
was like,
number
he's
and,
getting this. He's getting this. You better get this one because we always miss it, man, every time.
Yep. No, totally. I'm working on already, trying to already got Hazel on it. But yeah, it doesn't do us any good to record them if we never get access to them. So.
Right.
Now, were they planning on
It's our property, damn it.
Were they planning on posting those things, or?
I'm not sure. They haven't done them in the past. That's why I've asked them. Like, what's happened to them in the past? You just collect them for like a rainy day, and you're just going to save them forever, or are you going to post them, or like what gets done with those? She didn't really. She's going to look into it, but where she just does mainly vending operations, she doesn't have. She's not in control of the seminars and stuff. That's why last year was such a fun time compared to this year. It was much better.
Right. Well, I was impressed. I think that the full production of the whole thing went really well this year. It was smooth. I think those Red Line guys are pretty damn good, huh? At what they do.
Yep, and Hazel, I ended up at her trailer.
She said she didn't have to do nothing.
Trailer, but
yeah, she didn't have to do much.
Yeah,
she was pretty content.
Yeah, it was definitely better. Things ran a whole lot smoother. Traffic was an issue on Saturday that I know of. We stayed on site, so it was pretty good. Definitely much better than last year. But
yeah, and I think it's just a matter of, when you try to get, it's weird how we're all on this like psychic same time situation. Like we're not officially, but it's like traffic and shit like that. I mean, that's stuff that really is based on the fact that we're all on this weird cosmic time schedule. Like, we're going to come a little bit late and, not going to come too early. And all of a sudden we're like, blammo, we're all there. And then an hour later, it's like, it's empty again.
Yep,
so
every time.
But I was just amazed that it was so easy to kind of move around and stuff. It was like the back got a little bit crazy, a little bit tight, but not nearly like, it wasn't to the point where you felt like you couldn't watch your shit anymore or something. Because there was a few shows like that were at the other ones in San Bernardino where it was a sloppy busy where you just could tell it was like mayhem where half the booth was getting stolen over here and this. I mean, I heard of a few things. I heard of a few issues, people getting shit stolen and stuff, as usual. But it is California.
Unfortunate,
too.
yeah.
It is California. I mean, there's like enough people out there to always have that 5% or 1% even that are shady that are going to be around.
Yeah, and I even saw a post of Patrick from Here's of the Farm was up in the Haight-Ashbury at the cookie spot right after that and got a little smash and grab on him, unfortunately.
Really?
Yeah. Wasn't too much was taken, I don't think, but it was, always a pain in the ass to deal with.
I mean, well, that's the thing is when you have enough, because it's a weird experience when you're there. You're like, wow, there is a lot of weed here. You know what I mean? And there's a lot of, and you're not looking at it from the kind of guy. I mean, there's always. I mean, I had a friend.
The negative perspective.
Yeah, or just like the looking for the easy score kind of guy. And I know people who are like that who didn't pay attention to the show because they were too busy looking on the ground because they knew there was a lot of people, so that meant there was going to be stuff on the ground because people were going to drop stuff. I know people are just like, that's it. There's squirrels for life. You know what I mean? You can't help it.
Squirrels.
And you put them in you put them in a situation like that where they see people just like stacking pounds of weed. I mean, you know there's going to be some sticky fingers.
There's going to be a nug or two that's going to fall.
And it's almost always the staff is involved. You know what I mean? It's like one of the guys who's just working.
To that extent, though, like me and Tommy had talked about that. That's me and Tommy both did a couple of years inside, and so we have that kind of maybe negative mentality, and we'd noticed that last year. And so we actually had 3 plainclothes security officers sitting around all of our booths the whole time. So
smart man.
We were. I brought that into our play earlier.
I saw a few booths with security guards this year. So a couple that were it's like, okay, let's get into that point where it's like each booth knows it's moving a lot of product.
Well, I mean, if you think, some of the breeders and stuff and the amount of packs that were brought and everything else, I mean, it's a lot of seeds, it's a lot of money, it's a lot of work, it's a lot of time.
Yeah, that's way true, man. There's a lot of cash sitting there for sure.
No doubt. I mean, like I said, without naming names, I mean, I know some stacks that were fucking dropped on seeds for sure.
It's funny. On the first day, by 11 o'clock, everybody was tapped. You know what I mean? Like, everybody had already spent their load on the first 2 hours or something like that. I was like, damn.
Yeah, just blasted it out. It was crazy.
Which is, I mean, it's an awesome thing to see. I mean, I'm just glad that people are now finally appreciating seeds for what they are because, like, for the longest time, I mean, obviously in Amsterdam I'd meet people who, understood, but a lot of times it was just like people were like, yeah, I guess I'll get a pack of seeds. They weren't really like there on the mission. The mission people, when they came, it was like 5 Gs or 10 Gs or whatever. And then at that show, it's literally all those people.
Tons of them all coming there, and I mean they're all there, busting the gate down, going down to every single jar, opening everything. I mean, on a mission, which is cool. I mean, we got to have our pheno hunters out there. What's crazy to me though is how many people. It's like fucking baseball cards to them. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? They just love the pack. They love they love the look. I mean, and there's James. I mean, my God, you must have sold so many fucking seeds that just never get packed. It was a pretty pack. It's whatever, and they just want it because it's the name on it and they have it. Never do a damn thing with it.
Oh, I've seen that for years too.
And it's exactly like baseball cards because in every pack we all get some starters, we all get a couple old players, and they get a rookie here and there. But we're all looking for that Babe Ruth, and we're all looking for Hank Aaron. And if we get Babe Ruth, we know Hank Aaron's out there.
Right.
You just got to open a couple more packs. And the tough part is that you could have had it from the get go. You could have had Hank Aaron, or you could have never got him, or you could have got him at the very end. You don't know. That's the problem.
You don't know.
You could have something phenomenal that you think is fucking just it, but then pop a couple more packs, you find something that's a little bit better.
Yep.
Or you pop a couple more quantity. If you find something that knocks it off at all, checks all the boxes, you're like, but it's just this one box is left.
Robot.
Pop them, and it may be that way.
Right.
Well, yeah. I mean, the thing is, it's also how we keep rolling because if people. Really, everyone did their homework and everyone took a mother plan and held on to it. I mean, it would literally slow sales down, but it would also just slow development down because luckily people are getting super duper picky now to the point like it's pretty hard to make the cut on anything. You know what I mean? If you're like if you're really pheno hunting like you should be, because most people,
Yeah, like a real pheno hunter, like actually know what an elite is.
yeah, and just really looking for the one, you know what I mean? Just keep throwing them away. And over the years, I mean, I've known people who have gone through 300-400 different strains, and just, you know, they just, it's like, you ever grew one? We did one. We all gave up on it. Whatever. It's like, okay.
Right.
But it's also timing and setting and all that, because something that wasn't like, imagine fruity stuff 4 years ago. You couldn't sell a gram of it. Now all of a sudden people want the fruitiest of the fruity, and you're like, what is going on?
Well, and the best thing for you, James, is that the hunt never really stops, ever. You know, it's out there. Somebody's still looking for something. It's still rolling. People, you know.
Yeah, we never want to get complacent.
Yep.
So, or get content. You know, it's like, I've got this. I've had this for a while, 6 months. But what if I had something else? Well, you know, let me go try something else. Let me find something that's different. Or as the market changes, the pheno hunters change in different routes. And, eventually, you know, and the thing is that as more of the milkshake gets milked up and fucked up,
right.
with all the hybrids, unfortunately, the older stuff is going to come back into play a lot stronger.
Yes.
Yes. One of the guys I picked up this weekend as a new breeder, he's working with a white widow male. And so that, to me, was special. I was like, dang, I haven't seen that strain played in a long time. And on the male side is something completely different.
I think they use a white widow male a lot.
Old heirloom strains.
Is the guy connected to Spain by any chance? Because they use a lot. There's a lot of people using a white widow male out there. I know that for sure. So I wonder if it's the same one.
No, this guy called Grandpa Pa.
Okay.
Nice. Well, it's also interesting, you know, how people are getting more specific about what they're growing for how they're going to use it, whether they're going to extract it, whether they're going to smoke it as flour, whether they're going to rosin it, whether they're going to do whatever, whether it's going to end up as distillate, indoor, outdoor, whatever. It used to just kind of be indoor or outdoor. Now it's like, well, this is what I like as far as a fresh flower and how I like to smoke it, so that's what I'm going to fucking grow.
Well, the difference, too, though, is like it's crazy because now we're actually talking about numbers that make a difference. Like when you are talking about 2, 3 pounds, 5 pounds, 10 pounds, it doesn't matter. Whatever you do, it's just, you know, like you're not seeing the bigger picture. But when you're doing like 1,000, 2,000, 5,000, 10,000, because you're looking at your overall year rounds of what you're doing, at that point in time, every little fucking point counts, because if you can either upgrade your terps or upgrade your cannabinoid profile or upgrade your yield, any of those little things, even in the tiniest increment, is a pretty big deal at the end of the year. It's like, whoa, 3% on 5,000 is something, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Compared to like,
Absolutely.
when you're just talking about 10, well then you really want to get the most out of your bang for your buck at that point, so then everyone goes for the biggest yielding plants. Now, when people start looking at their profiles, they're like, oh shit, well this has got 1.3% CBG, which is fucking huge, you know what I mean, compared to 0.0003. So then all of a sudden it's like worth growing that just for that, you know?
Right, just
because
for that.
you have 5,000 pounds to play with, compared to if you're talking about 1% of 5 pounds is not enough to extract anything. Like, oh, here we go.
Reading with science?
Exactly.
What is this?
Whoa. Come again?
Science.
I said breeding with science? What is this?
Well, and I tell people, you know,
it's more even just like just being able to actually play with those numbers, because you can't really see the big picture on a small scale.
Right. Well, even like some of the stuff the Wilcox Farms do down in Arizona, and some of the fucking the hunts that they're doing, and I mean hundreds, if not thousands, at a time. And I tell people all the time, you know, when I was in school and we were talking about, you know, wheat breeding, for example, you're talking about starting with 1 to 2 million individual subjects for a pheno hunt to get to that one eventually 10 years later. So we're obviously fucking hyper. Basically in a hyper fucking link trying to get all this.
And how does somebody select that many? Is it physical selection?
Yeah. A lot of it is, of course, now so much is done with drones and shit. A lot of it's done in a different way. Originally, it was hand selection, straight up.
That's crazy.
It is, but just to give you a perspective on numbers, you know, in a real, quote unquote, real breeding setting.
And how would they, before they could really run those numbers without just like when it was really like, let's say, rudimentary sort of breeding, how would you? Because it seems like the wheat would start to look really the fucking same. Like, cannabis already looks similar.
It's either going to look really the same or really different,
right?
Over that time.
And they want the really different for the craziness.
Well, yeah, and I mean, you think about it, if you are looking at it that often, I mean, you're seeing it in a different level than anybody's seeing it. Let's just say it's a lot of walking rows,
That'd be nuts.
Yeah, definitely.
Such a lame reward too. It's like, great. Weed.
Yes, cannabis is a whole different thing. But again, I just like to say that just to give people a little bit of perspective. So when you're talking about hundreds or thousands of seeds, which are large, decent sized cannabis pheno hunts, that's still barely tapping on the door.
It's going to get better and better, of course, because they're going to be able to do more selection and be able to grow out bigger populations. Which, I mean, it's weird too because our scales change every 10 years. You know what I mean? Like 10 years ago, most people didn't see a bigger than 100 lighter. You know what I mean? 150 lighter, maybe 200 lighter. Now it's like everyone's seeing 2,000 lighters and bigger. But noticeably too, I met somebody today who didn't know nothing about the grow, but they had run already a bunch of them because they were just looking at it from a real estate point of view and from being the guy who's paying the bills or whatever. And you could just, like, I walked in and it was I was going to look for somebody else, and it was like stepping back into 2010. Like, I walked into the room and I was like, oh, well, welcome back to 2010. And he's like, and he was like immediately on the defensive about the room. Well, yeah, I don't got all the Gavitas and the rolling tables and
all that stuff.
All that stuff. But hey, it works. It's good. It's comfortable.
It's not broken, so I'm not fixing it.
And it was literally, it was weird too because he went upstairs and he had tried to build like an illegal dry room upstairs and got busted. So they had made him tear it all out. And I was walking around this place and it just looked like he kept reminding me that, oh no, it's all good, inspected, great. But it was like spots where they had cut like holes under the stairway to like let air through, and they were just like literally like meh, meh, meh. Like there was nothing to code about that. It was just like
it's like once the inspector left, that the Sawzall came out.
It was tree fort. It was literally, and without me saying it, the guy that I was going with was like, it's kind of like a tree fort, and I was like, dude, I was thinking the same thing. I was like, this is literally like 2010 tree fort greenhouse grow room,
classic,
and yeah. So it was just funny though, because this guy did not grow weed, and he was trying to explain to me how a real room should look, and it's like, yeah, even this guy who doesn't know nothing understands rolling tables, because pretty much describing how every sterile new room would look. You know what I mean? Which is, in one way, unfortunate because it also shows you like anything that gets like that is going to be very similar too. It's like, famous guys here in Colorado who we know are good growers, but yet they're growing on tables, in slabs, because it's designed for that, because that's what those things work best with. And kind of kills takes away the je ne sais quoi of the weed, where you're like, it's just that little fucking 2%, you know what I mean?
But that's what it's about now, right? It's just about the little extras. I mean, it's there's a lot out there. There's a lot of selection. So it's the little things that really are the biggest difference anymore.
People are getting better about it too, man. People are getting choosier. People are getting
way choosier.
Well, I talked to a friend of mine from Rhode Island who was there, and he was buying a bunch of Skittles and all that. You know what I mean? And it was just kind of like, and he's like, dude, I can't. This is all they want. I don't even like to grow it. He's like, I don't even fucking like to grow it.
Right.
But.
That's what they want.
Gotta do it, you know what I mean?
Yep.
And some of them, he's like, dude, if I had my choice, I would have thrown them away, because it's like they're not healthy, just not happy plants, unless you really dial them in, I guess. But he's got like the he basically had like the Sherbirds and all the classic Cali hype stuff. And that's when I noticed. I was like, okay, it's literally like it's Swerve time again. You know what I mean? Like back in the day when Swerve, who I did see at the show, and we hung out and talked for a minute, which was kind of funny. But when I didn't know who he was, I was like, who is this guy who's just like literally like posting shit about himself almost? It was like kind of like I felt that was going on. You know what I mean? There was something happening where it was like, Swerve's the best. Like he was definitely hyping himself. You know what I mean? And which is, more power to him. He did really good. He built himself up real fast where he came to Europe, and then he kind of had this idea that I didn't like him, which wasn't true. But it was just kind of like, because I wasn't into the internet side of stuff, I'd go on to Overgrow and look, but I didn't really do much. You know what I mean? I was just like, whatever, I'm just checking it out. But I saw how people were using it like a tool. Like, damn, I'm going to get all these kids psyched up, and basically just I'm doing. And that's kind of where we're at now. It's like noticeable. So you're like, fuck, I feel old. I'm like walking around the show like, man, I got to do all this hype stuff now. Like,
I fucking post this shit.
So much work, right, James?
It is, man. It is. But that's why I got a social media guy that helps me out.
Yeah,
See?
smart.
But I don't hype stuff enough where I would name my own company after me, though. So, that would be like over the top. Like if I had like James Bean Seed Company.
Yeah, like someone else already did with your name. Cool. That's even worse. Yeah, that's what happens when you don't. When you don't hype yourself and someone else just steals it. It's like if I didn't call my show the Adam Dunn Show, and then some other dude's like Adam Dunn Lion or whatever. I'd be like, what? Wait a minute, that's my name, dude.
You can't
steal that. Even though your name's not officially James Bean, I still definitely would give you the credit.
So for the record, that's not my other website. Just for the record.
Yeah. So when you're ordering seeds from him. Which is lame because probably thousands and thousands and thousands of seeds have been sold because of that. And nothing you can do,
well,
bro.
People just they hear good things about James Bean, and they go like, "Oh, okay, well, it equals this." And I'm like, "Oh," I'm like, "No, notice how we have no strains alike. Like I eat."
Yeah.
Basically, it gets my slack, if you will. Like I don't carry those other guys for certain reasons. But we have no strains common. But, yeah, I get it all the time. People, and then or customer service people will call us up, be like. So I got this, and I'm not very happy with it. Da, da, da. And so we'll walk them through. Invoice numbers don't match up. What they're talking about, we don't carry, and we'll have to split out. Were you thinking that you bought it from this company, or have you tried this company? He's like, oh, click. Hang up and figure it out, or. At one point, at least it's not like Yankee or NGR. Yankee would send his customers over to us. So.
I had the same forever because of THC seeds from Canada. Which I was like, so many times people send me like a message. I ordered seeds from you like 3 months ago. I'm like, what are you talking about? I'm like, I don't want to send seeds in the mail. So what are you talking about? And they're like, THC seeds, right? And I'm like, no, TH seeds. Those bastards.
Those bastards.
And many, many times I've been quoted and people have put THC seeds. And so I know they're getting full credit for everything I've ever done. No, not everything, but a lot. So, besides these couple shows coming up, you got anything, any other crazy announcements for us from the seats here now?
No, just before I go, just because I always forget somebody, and I apologize already. But we did pick up. I met Chris Costache was there, O.T. Cushman.
Oh
yeah, you know Chris.
Of course, this is
so
his last run,
doesn't look like Osama anymore.
I know.
Yeah, he doesn't look like Osama. Completely different. I was like, dude, what happened?
He picked up his last stuff. Did you pick up his last of his last? Before he goes corporate. Before he goes corporate.
And then he introduced me to a friend of his named Keith Sweat.
Oh, I know Keith.
Which is a pretty cool name. So I picked up about 50 packs from Keith Sweat. So we've got his stuff that'll go on the site next week. We've also got all the new Relentless stuff. Shout out to Relentless for he won Strain of the Year this year with the Elmer's Glue. Back on the panel when you guys were at the Emerald Cup, Breeder of the Year went to Archive.
Very nice.
To the Do-Si-Do crosses because of all the work and the selections he went and did through that. So he won Breeder of the Year this year. So
very nice. Him. Great guys over there. I didn't see Fletch, but I did see Biff and Mac for a little bit. So good guys over there for sure.
What's in that Elmer's Glue? That sounds good.
Fletch has the damn curse of cannabis, I guess. He's like gotten allergic to weed, so to say.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Can't be around it. I can't grow it. I'm like, damn, that's the curse right there.
It is. What's the breakdown on the Elmers? Do you know?
On the Elmer's Glue?
Yeah.
I don't.
And I see another lawsuit coming up, but what's the next? Besides the lawsuit, what's the? Is there any other valid reason to call it that? Is there an Elmer involved?
All right.
No.
Nothing.
No.
You don't know what it, you don't
I've
know
never heard of an Elmer strain.
You don't know what the cross is, though?
No.
The only reason I ask is Jaren and I have been coming across a lot of good glue crosses lately. And so
no doubt.
If that was another one, I was just wanting to know what it was.
No doubt. We've been puffing on some Greasy Monkey in here today, which is a new one that we pulled down, which is quite nice. Oh, man, it's the
Exotic.
Heat. Dude, Exotic is. Yeah. I got a sauce that I'm about to pull down, too, that's just fucking dripping right now. So.
Nice. No, shout out to Exotic.
That was last year's Breeder of the Year, right?
I believe so.
That was last year's Breeder of the Year.
See?
Yeah, no, those guys, they got the fucking heat, man.
And you can't win twice.
Yeah, you can't win twice, so maybe they would have, so who knows?
Maybe. I don't know. But yeah, shout out to Exotic. He's doing a lot of good shit. He's got his new mint chocolate chip line coming out.
Yep.
That's going to be insane. He's got a bunch of sherbets to work with, GMO, and all those crazy new things to work with, as well as the standards.
That GMO is really good.
Yeah, GMO's the heat. GMO's fire.
So is GMO Platinum Cookies crossed with Kim D?
think it's form cut cookies times the KMD, isn't
Can
it?
be, yeah.
I could be wrong also, but that's what I was told.
But it's definitely a cookie. Some cookies
Yeah.
cross KMD, and it is gassy as fuck.
It's good weed.
Right. So I've heard a lot of guys are using it, but I haven't had any yet.
Wait.
You can just say it. The Elmer's glue is it's the glue crossed with the white.
The white
that
cross with
makes
the glue.
sense.
That would now the Elmer's glue makes a little more sense. With just the white,
See, it's probably a badass strain.
But it is. I always thought the white was real bland, but that glue will help kick it into gear.
I don't know. I wonder.
What cross was that? The white cross of the glue?
Yeah.
Elmer's glue. That's a breakdown on Elmer's.
Probably makes that
Okay.
glue look pretty.
Okay.
Yeah.
I would imagine it'd be like a little bit of resin on there.
I bet there's a little bit of resin on that. Just a little bit of resin.
I would imagine.
I had 2 breeders call me and tell me that was the best strain they grew all year. I can mention which 2, but when I get that going, it's like, damn, that must be a good thing to go.
No doubt.
Because I'm not allowed to grow anymore because it's a liability. But I do have my guy down the street, and he's loving all the relentless stuff.
I was about to say, I'm sure
on
you
that,
take care of him on the beans, so it's all good.
He's coming out with a bunch of frosted cookies, frosted cherries, frosted strawberries, whole new frosted line. So we'll have all that stuff as well too.
Right on.
But of course, Obsolete's dropped had a new drop. We got all the shocker line, apple shocker, orange shocker, cherry shocker, we got a whole bunch of shocker lines, dream shocker. So shockers is a Zittles cross.
Nice.
Weren't you guys talking about Zittles earlier?
Boom shakalaka.
Boom shakalaka.
Yeah. So, well, that sounds good. So
that and then of course we'll have Grayskull
yeah.
drop it next week as well.
Yeah.
He was at the booth. Good to see him and Joey 808. They're there with my insurance guy, which was nice. They had some 2 great strains, the Mountain Girl and the Fire Pie. So I know Joey just won the PTSD contest with the Fire Pie. It was strictly for vets. They gave it to like I think 30 vets or something, and they just wanted to know the vets, which smoke was best for you and which helped your situations.
Right.
It came back that was the one that came back at 1, so that was pretty cool.
nice.
Kind of like not a high THC contest or a high CBD contest, but just kind of like which smoke helps your elements, and it came back cleaner that way. So that's pretty cool. But we'll have all their stuff, and then they left us a bunch of Hawaiian chocolate, and so every order gets a Hawaiian candies from Hawaii, so it's kind of cool. I'll try not to eat them all.
Sounds good.
I
Yeah,
do
it was
want
always
to.
good to see him. He
Oh,
actually
cool.
saw me when I was pulling up, so it was funny because he ran up to the van and threw me a butt of that fire pie.
Nice.
So it was perfect because we had to stand in that stupid line. So I was like, all right, well,
Why,
here we
thank
go.
you.
Let's start. Let it start. All right, well, cool. Nice talking to you again, James, as usual. Mr. James Bean, man on the scene.
Yes,
You need a-
cheers.
James Bean, man on the scene.
Thanks, guys. Good to see you, and we'll see you soon, Adam.
Will do. Good
See you
luck
guys.
in
Shout out to the
Boston.
chat gang.
Good luck in Boston.
Much love to chat gang. In Boston, forget about it.
Forget about
Get out of here.
Yeah, watch out with those accents because last time we were there, went up to dinner when we first got there in Boston, and James has never been farther than like Michigan east, so he's like one of those guys who literally was like blown away because he was in Boston. He was as far east as he ever went, and I'm like, all right. So we're in Boston, and it was really late, so there was only place I could go to was Legal Seafood or whatever, which is like 0 to 11 or something like that. So we go down, and we're sitting there looking at the menu, and I'm all stoked because I got all this fish, and I'm like, oh, good, it's Atlantic. At least I don't feel better eating it than like anything from the Pacific.
Not Fukushima.
It's less Fukushima. Dude. Like, it's like I don't know what's going, but at least it's not right there, right? So I'm like looking at the menu, like, oh, damn, this is gonna be great. Then James is like, oh, I hate fish, right? So I'm like, oh, well, whatever, just get like steak or something like that. And then he sits there and doesn't he's always like Mr. doing 90 things at once. Lady comes over and asks us, if we want to drink or whatever. And it was just like his look, because he just never heard somebody
actually
with such a local accent it just hit him, you know what I mean? He was like, and he like slack jawed and he's like pointing at her. And I'm like, what are you doing? And he's like, they really talk like that. Right? And I was just like, oh,
Way
my
funny.
God. I was like, and then she was like, she got a little pissed, but not really. She was like, what do you want to eat? And then he was like, I'll take the fisherman platter, right? And I'm just like, well, you just said you don't like fish. So you took every kind of fish that you could have. And he's like, it's deep fried.
It's fine.
So
it's
he ate
fine.
all the outside of all the different fish.
No way.
It was the biggest mess. I was like, dude, look at this. It's like a 5-year-old had eaten at the dinner table or something. It was just like, yeah, it was ridiculous.
He snaps the crust off of it.
But it was just hilarious because he was so in shock that the accent was
They
really
actually
that
sounded like that.
and it was just like, wow, that was so embarrassing. But anyway, this time he'll be more used to it.
Yeah, it won't be so
won't-
culture shocked.
Yeah, exactly. Whoa,
Holy shit, this is for real.
But it's always like that too when you, like, I mean, Boston is definitely not my favorite town personally because as a New Yorker, you can't really appreciate it. It's just like, eh.
Right. I've had some good times in
And
Boston.
I've never really gone there as an adult much, you know. I was always there. I was because I lived in Rhode Island, so I was
Sure.
there. So, you know, Boston, Rhode Island, too clanny at that in that area. You know what I mean? So we don't go. We go
We
there
don't
for
go up
Boston.
there.
Go there for Boston Red Sox game, and that's about it.
That's
you know,
about
get
it.
in, get out. That would be
Yeah.
the plan.
I like Providence. It's a fun town. I've had some good times there.
Yes, again, that's the other thing too. As a kid, I used to go to the Civic Center, go see concerts, and I wasn't allowed to do nothing. You know what I mean? And then I left when I was 17, so I never
Right.
experienced it at all as an adult too much.
Right.
It's cool, it's small, but it's lame too.
Yeah,
it's cool, small,
small.
and lame all at the same time.
It's cool, small, and somewhat lame.
Yeah. I mean, it's Rhode Island's one of those weird places. It's beautiful, but it's also fucking got its lame factor
Oh,
too.
yeah.
But you're close to everything too. You can zip down to New York, which was, I mean, that was the thing. When I lived there, I used to take the train as a kid, go back and forth, pick up fireworks or weed or whatever. It was always like that was the train trip. You know what I mean? I'm always tripping out because I used to carry like right around now. I'd go down and fucking go to Chinatown, and they'd just be like Italian guys cruising around going, yo, fireworks, and I'd be like, yo, over here, you know. And I'd have like $100 on me, have it all in different pockets, you know. Be like, what you got? You know what I mean? Go and they drag you to the back alley and they have all this fucking fireworks stacked up, like
Yes.
Blockbusters and M80s and all the illegal ones. And I'd be like, yeah, I need like those. And I just went for the dynamite shit. I didn't go for anything that had
I
any
want the
colors.
biggest boom.
No color. I didn't give a fuck. I was like, okay, the biggest rockets and the biggest bombs you got. That's all I want.
That's all I want.
And I'd load up, and my mom would come and sometimes cover for me and make sure I can get ripped off. Because a couple times they try to rip you off because you're a kid. You know, they'd be like, what are you talking about? It says fucking this. Hey, get the fuck out of here. And then I go tell my mom. She come back and they're like, what? And
You
they'd be
trying
like,
to rip the kid off? All right, fine. Here's the amazing.
yeah, here you go. But it was funny because I take like a army duffel bag, right? I mean, of course, because I was into that zone. So I take an long army duffel bag, fill it up with fireworks, with like sticks hanging out the back, get on the train, and throw it on the overhead, you know what I mean? And then ding, 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 pay my ticket, listen to my fucking Walkman, and get back to, and then just start slanging fucking fireworks when I get home.
Nice, dude.
And like now you'd be in so much trouble. They'd be
You
like,
can't
dogs
do
would come on, smell the fire, fucking gunpowder, jihadi. I mean,
you'd be getting
sticks
billy
of dynamite,
clubbed
basically. Oh my god, it was so bad.
Yeah.
Those are the days.
Oh man, yeah, I used to love those half sticks of dynamite. We just blow the biggest fucking holes we can find.
Blockbusters, they were called.
Oh.
I don't know what you guys are calling them, but yeah, those were pretty loud, pretty bad.
Blockbusters.
Blow up mailboxes. We used to blow up TV sets.
We'd buy whole bricks of bottle rockets, slice them all down, harvest all the gunpowder, and make our own bombs out of them.
No way.
Oh yeah,
Of course.
yeah.
Well, my
A
little,
lot of time and effort into that.
my little trick, my thing that I love to
Just
do
a
is
hole
to
in the
take rocket, take those SD rocket starters, and pull out the wicks and put those in them, and then I could electronically launch them and blow them off and stuff. So then I would have like, I knew that it was going to just blow up anyway, so I'd connect the wires, and then instead of clips, I just put a little fucking put a little thing on there, and then I could like control the explosion, so I didn't have to like be near it, light it and run, and never get to see, because that was the whole thing. You'd light it and run, and then you'd look behind, and something would happen. You never had a
Party
chance
over.
to fucking check it out, you know. So I was like 100-foot cord, like. It was just about pushing the button, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It was dope.
The biggest, gnarliest ones we ever did were actually sparkler bombs, the old school sparklers. You could fucking
yeah.
get a big old,
Yeah,
you
yeah.
put one out of that. I mean, that thing huge.
Tim Martin did one at the. Actually, got a video somewhere. I got a video where somebody has one where he made a couple of them.
Yeah.
And it was in front of the old Hood Lab, the one over in Rhino, and he fucking was pretty damn big. It was one of those ones where he was sitting there all night. You know, he finally made it, and we went out.
3
and
rolls of duct tape later.
It was a pretty good one. Yeah, that's true. The things you can learn as a kid.
Yes, yes. I remember when I had the Anarchist Cookbook on a disc. Yeah.
Did you? There's a guy. There was a documentary about that. Did you see the documentary about the Anarchist Cookbook? Yeah, it's on Netflix. I forget the name of it, but it's pretty good. It's like they basically interview the guy who wrote it, and the guy who wrote it, he just wrote it. You know what I mean? There's a lot of shit in there never tested. He just went like, "Fuck it, burp." You know, there's.
I bet this works.
This will work. You know what I mean? And then what? People did it. I was like, of course people did it because you wrote it, and they thought, yeah, that's how you make napalm. So they went out and did it. And he's like, oh, I guess I should. And a few people, obviously people got killed along the way, and there was definitely like his book was found at many murder scenes. You know what I mean? It was literally like the book, and everybody had a copy or a piece of it. Or I had photocopied bits of it. I was making napalm. I was doing all those stupid things.
The sticky gas.
I've never seen it somehow.
Oh, what?
Never seen that.
What is wrong with you?
Man.
What's wrong with you kids?
Holy crap!
Oh man,
I feel like I'm missing out.
Yeah.
It's out, dude. It's been reproduced. Now it's easy because now you just go online. There's definitely
It's
copies.
still online.
There's gotta be. Yeah,
of course.
I mean,
And it's simple stuff, but it's
like styrofoam and gasoline. Now it's napalm. Sticky fire.
sticky fire.
Right?
Pretty much.
Oh, yeah.
And he's got some of those recipes are pretty like it's all about like how to kill people and booby traps, and it's pretty awesome.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm gonna check it out, not on my computer, obviously, but
go down to the local library for that.
Yep.
And I think it's interesting too, because like weed back in the day, it was always like the Anarchist Cookbook, Weed Grow books, all those things were like. I think that was what was the name of the. Do you remember the name of the publisher of the Anarchist Cookbook? Because it was one of those like. It was like a company that's all they do is like the nuttiest, the nuttiest fucking
shit.
cover like things you've ever. And that's the thing that was funny because before there was internet, as a kid, seek out those little fucking weird, twisted things, and like it was so hard to get that. It was like if I never had a hard copy. That's what I mean. I only got.
I'm trying to think where I got my disc from, but I specifically got a floppy disc of the Anarchist Cookbook.
Floppy,
dude.
Damn,
a floppy.
Now you couldn't even see it if you wanted.
Oh, I know. I bet it's rummaging around in a some drawer somewhere. But I couldn't even look at it if I wanted to.
That's fucking hilarious. But in general, all those underground things were like extra special too. And I was all into Freak Brothers. I was always like, and I don't have any of that shit anymore. It sucks. Like I've moved so many times. And to the wind, But I was actually when I was in Amsterdam, what was really cool is Rip Off Press, which was Freak Brothers. Their office was in Amsterdam, and then I kind of stumbled across it one day. Like it was just weird. I was like, "What? Wait a minute, Rip Off Press? Like the Rip Off Press?" And I went in and talked to them, and it was like kind of like it's like '93 at the time, so they were pretty much like. On a slump, you know what I mean? Nobody cared anymore. There wasn't really a hot commodity, but I was still into that whole comic book kind of mentality. I love that stuff anyway. So they were like offering me, it was pretty cheap too, for like 10,000 guilders. They'd give me everything they had. Like, we'll just take it all, you know what I mean? And I was like, that's like $5,000. I didn't have $5,000. I was like, no, but once I got my store, I kind of started to sell some shit for them, and I got like the complete High Times collection in, and I got a few things off of these guys. But it was just weird because they were such a iconic fucking publishing house, and all of a sudden they were just run down spot in Amsterdam with a guy who would have given me his entire shop for $5,000. You could have it all. And I was like, and I wish I did now, because I'm sure some of that stuff, individually will be worth something, because I think now that people of my age are at that point where that's like nostalgic shit for us, you could probably pull some heartstrings there. You'd be like, dude, like Dr. Do you remember Dr. Atomic? Mm-mm. Dr. Atomic was like a comic that if you read it, there's a lot of information in there that was really good, because it was like somehow he'd cram so much info into one page, and you'd be reading into it, and you'd be like, probably the same as the Anarchist Cookbook. They probably never really did a lot of it, but because they wrote it so convincingly and made it look so fucking like doable that in your mind you were like, oh yeah, this is like a guy on a fucking tractor and he's growing weed and he's got plants going in rows, and you're just like dreaming that dream because it's a 70s thing, you know, and you're like, oh, imagine if you could do that. Now you can do that. But in general, it was, you know, kind of like they'd even break down little like cardboard, how to like take like a piece of toilet paper roll, turn it into a pipe and turn it into this, and he kind of like, that was his whole thing because he's Dr. Atomic, right? So he teaches you how to smoke weed from hash oil and how to do oil stuff, and you were just like, if you looked at it now, it was like the same as, do you ever seen, I think it was R Gold, or it was one of those, I know it was Gold, I don't know the first initial, but it was the making oils and stuff. It was an extraction, kind of the first little skinny book. Or D-Gold. And those, if you read them, it's like, they were on point, they just didn't know how to fucking smoke it. It was weird. Like, if they just, somebody even figured out how to smoke it properly with a rig or something like that, or like,
right.
Instead of just like smearing it all over papers is what most of the people did, and it was kind of like gross and never really worked, you know? Yeah, exactly. You're like, it's a big mess, but...
Yeah, sounds cool.
But it was cool because some of those comic books were like really informative, like especially the Dr. Atomic. That's why I'm surprised you haven't seen those ones, because those ones were like, from a grower's point of view, like almost a grow Bible in one comic, you know, because it talks about clones and talks about a lot of stuff way before anybody else would, and you're like, oh, this guy's on point. Still has a lot of Sensi though too, or a lot of like Thai, Mexican explanation of strains, differences and stuff. So I'll have to pull them out for you.
Yeah, I have to pull that stuff out.
But I ended up getting one of their little Dr. Atomic wooden, like it was like on the desk of the place, and when I bought all the High Times, I was like, can I buy that? And he was like, yeah, you can have it. But it was funny because it's like a hand painted little wooden sort of dude, which like that's the kind of thing that I would buy. Like,
right.
I'll pay $100. I mean, it's like, but yeah, it was one of those like, man, I should have bought the whole thing for $5. I would have had something.
I would have had something.
So what are you guys doing for New Year's? Speaking of like things coming up.
Yeah, things coming up. I'm going down to Albuquerque with my wife and family for a couple days, so nothing too exciting.
No, that sounds very not New Year's like. It's not Times Square.
No,
I'm going to this major, not major party down in major.
Yeah. It's a hugely major, non-major event. Yeah.
What about you, Cole?
I don't have any real plans yet, man. I may stick around Denver. I may try to go to the mountains for a little bit. We'll see how if there's any snow or whatever.
You can go see my buddy's thing over at Red Rocks and go see all those ratchet performers. He's got Migos and.
What's some New Year's party at Red Rocks?
Yeah,
really.
It's the first one ever. It's pretty interesting.
Yeah, I've not seen that.
It's like I said, it's all hip hop, and it's all kind of like, oh, I don't know. It's a weird lineup. You know what I mean? It's definitely not like a happy year. It's more like a
Red Rocks in the winter is real fun sometimes, but it's always so fucking cold up there. You're just like,
oh man, it's so cold.
It's hard to have a good time when you're freezing.
That's why I wear hoodlums, dude. So I never think about that.
You know,
there I am with my
hoodlums.
Answer,
dude. You know?
That was one of the things that was great about going to the Emerald Cup, is that so many people wearing hoodlum there. It's just ridiculous, to the point where it's like, wait a minute, now there's just like one in three. At a certain point when it gets cold out, about 1 in 3. It's weird. You're like, wait a minute, there's so many hoodlums, because it's. And a lot of people I've talked to, I've had this for 15 years. You know, it's like, okay, well, there you go. That's why, because
it's just that build up over time.
Exactly. It's not like everybody's got the last year's hoodlum. No, not by any means. But a lot of hoodlum couples out there.
A lot of hoodlum couples. We've been loving our new Millennium hoodlums, by the way. Little shout out to hoodlum.
They're extremely nice, man.
Little
Those
collab.
are great.
Been loving it for sure.
Because they're black and white too, right? So they're just perfect.
Yep.
Those look really good, man. Honestly.
A good. Hint to anybody who wants to print anything is just keep it simple, man. It's like the minute you go with 3 colors and 4 colors, it's lost to the end user. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. But if you're or a person who has to figure it out, and your logo is really cool, and it's all what do they call those things when you flip them upside down again?
It's called like an anagram or something like that.
Is it an anagram?
Right?
Anagram. Yeah. So, oh my God, it's the same, bro. It's the same. Oh. So that's pretty good on the sleeves and stuff, because then you don't have to worry, like, which way is it? I like that.
Yep.
Who's the guy who made that logo?
Some of our European partners actually did it all. I don't know.
Yeah, is it mind blowing? Is it mind blowing? I'm telling you, it's one of those. Yeah, and it's a long.
Here's the funny part, though, right? So it's spelled wrong to begin with, right? Okay. Millennium is. Mm-hmm. So not only is it spelled wrong, if you don't know that says Millennium, good luck.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's great when you do know what it is, and it's cool that you can't flip it up and down, but it's hilarious when, and of course, you know, we're getting out there more and more, and any help that we get from anybody tagging it on Instagram or anything like that is great, but it's hilarious how much it is misspelled. And it's something that wasn't necessarily
you misspelled
considered. We started misspelling it, and then we came up. But number two, we came up with a logo that was kind of hard to read.
Sure. Well, you know what's funny is that Millennium is one of the words that my mom can't say. Like she just can't say it because she says Millennium, and she just can't not say it. Like it's hilarious because when it was the Millennium, right. She had to say it all the time because it's like, hey, forget him. You know what I'm talking about. Yeah, and it was just like, and I would just laugh because I'd keep going like, say it. You know, she'd say Millennium, and I'd be like, no, how can you not? Like, and just couldn't help it. Like okay, Millennium. Like she'd pull it out. You know, all right, you did it. Right. But then it would just fall back into that every time. So the fact that she's used it for 2 years plus, maybe 3 years almost total, and it's like kind of she still can't say it. Like doesn't matter. And even though it's like the food, you know,
right?
And she'll be like, "Go get some food." You know, I'll go say it. Say it. You know I can't say it. Like,
don't make me.
Don't make me say it. New Millennium. I'm like,
yes, I'll go get you some.
Well, now I'll get you some. So you guys are at the Indo, obviously.
Oh yeah, we'll definitely be at the Indo. We'll have a big setup at the Indo.
But that's actually going to be everything, right? That's going to be 5A and everything.
Yeah, that'll be the whole thing. It'll be Millennium, playground, lighting. Yeah.
Oh, and the playground guys will be here then, right? Officially, the real deal.
Playground will be here for sure.
Because that's what we're going to plan on, and you guys are going to put together a show. Because that's what we've been talking about is getting the original, the Dutch guy, not the guy that comes not the guy that's actually there all the time, but the other guy that's coming over. Isn't he coming over? The main guy from Playground. Well, that's what he was saying.
You may know things that we don't, Adam. This happens at times.
Well, Bo was saying that he was saying the whole crew was going to be here at some point. So maybe not. It might not even be at that show, but if they are here, we need to coordinate that.
Yeah, so we can definitely coordinate that, and definitely let's press Bo on that and see what's up.
Yeah, because even though they're your direct competition when it comes to food, in some sense, it's not because you guys are crossing over with the green sensation.
Correct.
And you are the distributors, so who gives a fuck,
yeah,
right?
We do both, yeah.
But at the same time, it would be good to get them on, get them all Dutch it out a little bit here for a minute.
Yeah.
We can get them really, really high because apparently the guy smokes a lot, so that's good. So it's a rarity amongst Dutch people.
It is.
So.
It's a rarity among Dutch, but even rarer one that'll smoke it without tobacco. I'm not saying he does, but we'll see.
We will see.
We shall see. Yeah. How long did you go with the split thing
for
a while?
This is the FOCO, right?
Yeah.
Let's break that one up.
Yeah.
It's going to dry the hell up right in front of our eyes.
Yeah,
you can hear it.
We're in Colorado Crunch.
Yeah.
Crisp.
Crispy. So that's on the 27th, the show. So maybe if they are showing up, we'll try to do it the week before if they're going to be here or whatever. You guys just keep that in check. So
yeah, we will.
Don't let this slip past because that'd be fun.
I'm sure they'd be happy doing that.
And as we always say, every time you guys are here, we got to get the main man on here at some point too, so we can.
Mr. Watson, is this who you speak of?
Yes.
Mr. Neil Watson.
Yes, Mr. Neil Watson. I would love to get him on the show just to congratulate him on the product, but also to get some inside scoop on some of the old, especially some of the the old school stories because those are becoming more interesting. As reality.
They're becoming much more interesting. No, it's true. He does have some good stories. Having been at GH for 22 years or whatever. He's and just one of the original guys running around.
And the funny part was and that's why I like to talk to him because when Larry, his boss, was really like kind of still man on the ground and dealing with everybody on the daily ops and all that stuff. One of his main guys, customer wise, moved to Amsterdam, and then I became the distributor for a little while. So it was kind of like, and that was in the mid '90s. So I'd like to hear the stories from the other side. You know what I mean? Because I know for sure what happened on my side, and I didn't even work through them directly. I worked through the French guy that was their European distributor. So, and I'm sure right away he's going to go, "Oh, that guy," because he was definitely one of those deals. And but at the same time, I was like everybody. To me, that was the the shit because at least it was clean and controllable. You know what I mean? Maybe not compared to clean nowadays, but clean at that point in time.
At that point in time, for sure.
100%. And also just predictable, you know what I mean? Like
some NASA shit, man.
Yeah, exactly.
That was the story, right?
that was it. Dude, NASA.
Fucking NASA brought that to the moon, bro.
I don't know if that's true or not.
Good marketing.
No, it's definitely not true. but
Great marketing.
It's fantastic marketing.
But it was NASA tested, I think.
Yeah, when everybody ran
Hey, have
with
you guys ever seen the underwater grow situation that these guys had developed recently?
No.
Where they had these like bell bubbles with plants growing in a ring, in a circle, and then you'd swim down. It'd be like about 10 feet under the water, 8 to 10 feet under the water, so they cut just enough light. It wasn't weed, of course.
No.
But it was, I think it was more herb and maybe flowers, but it was pretty dope. Like the guy would swim down, come up underneath, and tend them, and then go back out, and then they would bring it up at harvest time. But it was like pretty interesting. Definitely good way to keep pathogens and well, I mean, you might find some new ones, of course, but for the most part, you would eliminate certain bugs. I would assume. I don't think you can get through as long as you don't bring them there. As long as it can start fresh and clean. And then it'd be pretty hard for them to swim 8 feet below the water to get to your spot.
I would think so, yeah. I think they'd have a difficult time.
Russets. You'd be like your russet-proof grow.
That's the new superbug, the swimming russet, man.
Yeah, the underwater amphibious russet combo.
Man,
I'd be like, oh no. And they sense the air bubbles from like miles away.
Right.
Yeah. Jesus. Any new products on the market for things like that you've seen that are like MED approved or anything that's because I mean it seems like everybody was like rushing to fill that gap when Guardian sort of dropped the ball 2 years ago, let's say, and then that Nature Side came out for a minute from our friend, but I didn't see any of that. Did you see anything that fills in that gap? Because I've noticed that's kind of like where that's like why I think so many people are
right now. It seems like
I think so many people are going to fail the long term, and like it's funny because I even had like I got hit with some thrips, and I was like, what the hell? They're like relentless. Like nothing seemed to like kind of slow them down. So then I hit them with that Nature Side. Man, that shit worked great because I'd never used it until I like found it. Blew off the dust, you know what I mean? And we used it, and I was like, it worked great. But then I just was wondering because I didn't see it hit the market really, did it? Or you know what I'm talking about?
I've never seen it.
I've never seen it either.
That was supposed to fill the gap for that Guardian.
Really?
From some of the guys that were working for Guardian that went off and do their own thing after.
Really?
Yeah. And it was like a cottonseed oil, clove oil, kind of in that department, like four kinds of oil. And
yeah, it's just so hard with those products because even all the different oil-based ones that do work, it's just people that do extracts, it's so fragile because if you have anything of that left, it just goes right into the product,
Yeah. Well, I mean, you definitely want to use it in veg, you know what I mean?
Of course. But we all know people are doing it. I mean, I've bought plenty of stuff, unfortunately, that I dabbed and you taste neem, dude. You know what I mean? It's not
well, neem is definitely the culprit at this point in time just because most people aren't too savvy to realize that they're buying it from other people and you just don't know. And it's like, there's not really a neem test that I know of. Actually, speaking of test stuff, I did meet a guy who I'm probably going to get on the show pretty soon, but he had a 15-minute pesticide tester. I don't know if you could basically just plug it in to a computer. I think you could even do it as a standalone in the field.
And then go and download it later or whatever.
And then come and take the data off it. But it was like 15 minutes to get a result.
That's badass.
And, it was pretty awesome for people who buy wholesale or, people. And you could do it in the field also with fresh materials. So before you even, so you could go in and call somebody out.
And honestly, when I was at the Cup, that was some of the coolest stuff that I saw. I mean, of course, we see the same kind of stuff recycled over and over and over again, but the quick test kits was some of the stuff that seemed to be coming out a lot more. So whether it be for pesticides or THC or whatever, I had one done on this one, on the Sage, and in 10 minutes, boom, didn't get a full profile back or anything on it, but did get a full THC profile on it, which was cool. So that was nice. Those were fun to check out. And it's nice to be able to get it quick like that, that's for sure, because, all that testing is obviously taking time in years past, but all that shit's getting a lot faster.
Yeah, the industry needs more products like that too, man, to keep people from, just being poor gardeners. It's like, just stop trying to band-aid everything and spray things you shouldn't be spraying and just don't have bugs and PM,
Yeah, I mean, the key is to start clean and you'll end up clean. It's really hard to start dirty and fight your way through it. And, you're better off just to start over again.
Oh, it's the classic, man. People flower plants that have mites. You're like, it's not going to work, man. I don't care how many times you spray, what you're spraying. It's not going to work, dude.
Nope. Yeah, no, if you have, it really depends on, like, if you can get it down to a plant with, it's usually the medium that is the problem, because it's like if you transport just the tiniest amount of soil from one place to the other, that's where you almost guarantee you're going to have a problem.
You're going to have an issue. That's
if anything, you're going to be doing fresh cuts that are then quarantined and then inspected, and then released at that point. If you can do that, which most people don't, because they just put it in with the other ones, and then it's like it's over. It's done.
Let it rip.
So in general, if you can just follow those certain guidelines, which is hard because a lot of times people are under pressure, they're trying to, maintain small space, whatever. That's the only way you can do it, because if you have a medium, it's almost guaranteed that you got eggs or something if there was any kind of contaminants.
If there was,
yeah,
it'll be there. Yeah, no, that's typically where I've had issues, is bringing in different media, and then of course, bringing in different material and things like that. Nobody wants to, or has a space or patience to properly quarantine things, but start from seed, folks.
If you can, start from seed is definitely a good. But weird, the other thing too is there's, PM especially can be transferred from seed. So
yeah,
that's the kind of sad part, is there's a lot of people who don't think like that, and the reality is, yeah, you can. So
I didn't realize that you can transfer PM through seed.
If
because you can have it
that fucking bad, which it has to be really bad. Now, most viruses, which PM's not a virus, but most viruses will not. You're cleaned up basically through the seed process.
Yeah, but it's just more of it's not an internal as an external thing. So it's still like if it came from PM room and it hasn't been treated in any way, shape, or form.
It's on the seed coat.
It can literally
outside the seed coat.
It's not inside, so it literally can and that's what sucks, is that who knows how many times that's happened. You know what I mean? And I've seen it where you get seeds from that seem like either they're just super not resistant and it was already there and they just got it, or possibly it could have came with it, but yeah, it's one of those. You gotta be just careful with everything. That's why it's always nice when you let things sit. And then in nature they always sit for a year or two. So when you take stuff fresh off a plant, that's even when it's not even a good idea with seeds. It's good to let them cure a little bit. You'll get a better germ rate.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, they want to get down to a certain drying rate. They want to get down to like 1 or 2%. I think wet weight, and then obviously going through it. And some things even need a chilling period even to then be viable and germinate. Cannabis doesn't, but yeah, it needs a little bit of time, a little time to chill, a little time to dry out properly to get maximum germination rates for sure.
So here, KTI, I'll give you some news. Some news just came in about Massachusetts approving some social use in restaurants and sales even in restaurants. I'm hearing.
Really?
I don't know. It sounded pretty interesting.
That's cool to hear.
I did hear that Denver
tell us what's going on.
Yeah, what do we got?
All right, this is from the Boston Globe. Cannabis panel backs pot bars, home delivery, and stoned yoga. The legal sale and consumption of recreational marijuana in Massachusetts came into much clearer focus this week as state regulators said they are ready to authorize a wide variety of locations where consumers can buy and consume cannabis. Cannabis officials took preliminary votes to allow marijuana bars or cafes where cannabis products can be consumed on site, to permit home delivery of pot, and to regulate the sale and
Sounds way better than here all of a sudden.
Yeah.
What?
Kidding.
Jesus.
And to regulate the sale and use of the drug at other businesses such as restaurants, yoga studios, movie theaters, and massage parlors that receive state licenses.
Kind of a weird, varied selection there.
That is a varied selection, yeah. You got to think about massage oil, cannabis massage oil, so
yoga, weed.
Yoga, weed, sure, why not?
Of course, all those are pretty obvious, but movie theaters usually don't let you smoke anything anyway, so It's interesting. I mean, if they're just going to let you do edibles or vape, it'd be cool if they let you vape, because then you can just do like a dab theater, which would be dope.
Not a bad idea.
Bunch of couches and rigs, and you're good to go.
Good to
Groups
go.
of 6 each couch, and just rent them. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I don't know, there could be something there.
Hit the button. It'd be like a thing where you just have a guy hits the button and it powers up that little zone, and then you got like an email, and when your time's up, like a bowling alley, where clear, you're done, bro. Next, move in the next group. You know what I mean? I like that. But it's interesting to see how other states are hopefully going to show Colorado what's up. Right. Oh, yeah, well, let's talk about Sweet Leaf. We might as well, since it's big news, right? We got an hour to kill. We might as well just do some newsy stuff and chit-chat about the realities of how this industry is going. I think Colorado, is a great litmus test for the rest of the states to kind of understand that as regulations kick in, it also means that you're going to have to the point where, like, because I think with weed people, we always think, like, they're never going to check, But the reality is there's a certain point where they will. And right now, some of the checks are things like what these guys got caught for, which is looping, and what they call smurfing, which is going from all this different shop to shop to shop to shop. That's cool. They're good.
Smurfing, that's what they call it?
Yeah, smurfing is going from, like, say they have 24 locations, so you can go, if you're going from one to the next to the next to the next, that's smurfing. If you're going looping, you're going back into the same one.
Right.
And so they got caught for both. And
smurfing.
And
it sounds like some weird sexual thing.
Of course, I know. Of course, right? Donkey punched over here.
Smurfing, donkey punching. It's all fucking crazy.
But in general, that's a pretty big deal because they were pulling 52 million or something in a year, right? So. Right. 50 to 60 million a year.
And they're not just in Colorado, right? Don't they have some stuff in Oregon too? Well, not saying that the buses, but as far as the company goes. Yeah, the company's definitely more than just Colorado, but in general, I think this was all here. And it was 24 shops, suspended license right out of the gate, which is really, really unusual. Wow. Usually that kind of stuff, it's usually like, when they're talking about, I think they arrested like 13 bud tenders, I think I just saw.
13 total, yeah. So it's... it is one of those deals where that if the bud tender tells you come back and go out and come back, then that's kind of like that is against the law. It's breaking. That's like compliance. And I think if you're running that big of a company, you got to imagine if they're allowing those kind of sales, it's when they start to retroact and go backwards and look at that from a realistic point of view. That's a $10 million deal in the end, I believe. You know what I mean? I can see them getting fined upwards of 10 million probably in the end, just because, and some people going to jail and whatever, just because it is quite a lot. Kind of like we were saying before, like when it's a small grow and you fuck up, you fuck
couple
up
percent's
small,
not a big deal, right?
And exactly, and then they look back and say, oh my God, but you have, obviously grown this amount, so we're looking back at 10,000. Here's a fine. But when you start talking about $10 million fine, that's enough to put somebody down on their knees as far as the company goes. And so I'm expecting to see is that they're going to end up selling off a chunk just to save their asses, because there's no way to
Yeah, how do you come back from that?
Run
if you
20.
really get hit that hard, yeah.
So what did they do exactly? They were just selling more product than they should have per day per person type of thing?
Yep.
Okay.
But they're treating that like basically
like they were selling it out the back door.
Pretty much like you're selling out the back door at that point, because people were coming in and buying basically a pound a day. You know what I mean?
You could have now to say
so that is getting diverted. Boom. So that is obviously getting diverted to the black market in their minds.
Clearly,
in their minds,
clearly,
which it is.
Yeah. Which it is, and we're not, but at the same time, it's it's very hard. I mean, it's a hard one. It's like you can definitely see that one being a tough one to come back from, just because the fines will be huge. And
they're going to make an example out of this thing, it seems. You know.
Especially right now, this time, they're not going to be cool with that, I don't think.
Yeah, I don't think so at all. So good luck with that one. But no, it is it's a pretty heavy blow, just because it is also like they were trying to be one of the bigger, more compliant companies, I think, out there from their appearance. You know what I mean?
Right.
Obviously not by practice.
What's going to be interesting with something like that is, who's advocating within the company for something like that? Because the bud tender, at the end of the day, he ain't getting shit out of it, or she's not getting shit out of it. You know. So is it a performance thing? So I'm just curious. It's like what level did it come down that it's like, yeah, we're gonna be okay with that?
What about alcohol though? You know, like why can you can go home with a trunk full of bottles if you want.
Sure,
to, you know
no,
what I mean?
and
So, like,
we could talk to morality about it all day, but let's just focus on what the actual law is, and whether it's right or wrong. Fuck, who cares?
Right.
But the reality is, you're only supposed to get X amount a day, and if you allow more than that, you're breaking the laws that we set for. And then again, they're arbitrary as far as I'm concerned. It's like whatever.
Well, it's like when people look at the 64, how it was written, and they like to twist it and put it into their own sort of court. I mean, there's like people who are saying that we can't have a social use because it's written in there, because they're reading it different than we're reading it. They're saying like any business you can't, it's like no, wait, like it's how you're looking at it, And right now, it's pretty obvious if somebody's. Because, like, we know examples, like, right away. Like, I was like, oh, I know somebody who does that. They go in, and their wife goes in, and then they go back, and he goes back in, and then she goes back in, and they get a quarter pound each time, so that's a pound. And then, that goes to wherever. And so, probably there's hundreds of them. You know what I mean?
I'm sure. But, and again, my question is, why would me as the bud tender be okay with that and be like, well, I'm not going to get fucking popped for that. I don't give a fuck where you get your shit. You're going to get it once from me and then get the fuck out of here.
Yeah.
You know
it has to, and that's what it should be. And that's the problem is that, so somebody's...
So my point is, who was benefiting off that? Other than, was it the management getting a performance bonus based on monthlies or something like that?
Could be. It sounds like the Wells Fargo deal.
Right, exactly.
Like where they were like they made everybody so competitive that part of it was like to scam people out of more money just to make you look good.
Right.
And it was like, because I got pulled into that fucking deal.
You did?
Yeah, because I went in to open up an account and I had 2 businesses and all of a sudden I had 8 accounts. Because I had like 4 for each business, and they had basically opened up 4 cards under. I was like, what is going on here? So all of a sudden I got all these cards in the mail, and I was like, how do I have 8 accounts? And it was just like, because they told them, you get more things. So basically the girl was like talking to us, and me and my wife were like, okay. She's like, yeah, you should open up 1 for this and 1 for that, and then do this. It'll be much easier for your taxes. And we're like, whatever, you know what I mean? And then all of a sudden, we left there with 1 little card, and then all of a sudden it was like ka-ching, 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 ka-ching in the mail. And then every month we got dinged $50 if we hadn't moved $150 through those accounts.
Right.
So I was like getting dinged.
I
was getting dinged so many times that in the end we had to like go back. We had 43 overdrafts or some bullshit because of that. You know what I mean? And it was like, that's like $1,200 in overdrafts, So we had to like get them all. We got them all taken off because they knew they were in the wrong. Because we figured it out, and then all of a sudden we read it. Then it was on the fucking news. So it was like, oh shit, it's like we got catfished or something. We just got fucked by these guys.
Right.
And
well, and it's going to be interesting how this thing's going to play out, because again, they got the 13 guys at the bottom who didn't benefit at all from it, but somebody did up top, and for sure they're going to be saying who it was. You can bet on that. It ain't stopping at 13.
Well, yeah, especially if they're looking at. They said they were looking at the last year.
Right.
So, I can only imagine that there's been multiple people working over that last year at different levels and things.
Right.
So it's gonna be a very much an example that's gonna be scare the fuck out of a lot of other people. I'm sure Buddy Boy and everybody are tightening ship. Like, make sure we don't, because they got caught selling straight out of their fucking parking lot, right? I mean, so
right.
So
really, I didn't hear that either. Damn.
Oh yeah.
I heard about that,
Oh yeah.
But yeah,
and that's the thing is we know from our side, like we all came from figuring out everything to the hilt. You know what I mean? Like if they'll let us go an inch, we're gonna go fucking 10 inches. You know what I mean? Didn't matter what we do, because that's how most of us operate. Just because we're all been coming from the underground, or trying to make our way and trying to get the most bang for your buck. You know what I mean? That's kind of the way it's always been, because you're limited on, it's like you can't claim taxes on it or nothing. So it's not like so if you're going to buy something, it's not like you're basically get the best, because it's like there's no point in doubling up. You're not getting any of your tax money back. It's all like you better have it operating as much as possible, better than like, oh, I got it cheap and I got some no, it doesn't work. So I think it's just kind of our mentality, and then now we're we've had this sort of free reign for a while, and by having the free reign, we've probably a bunch of us have hung ourselves in the long run. You know what I mean?
They gave us some rope, and we've done a pretty good job of hanging ourselves with it for sure.
Exactly. Exactly. And like slowly wrap it. Let me wrap it twice. Should I wrap it twice just to make sure?
Yeah, go for it.
Very
measure.
Good idea. Good idea. Measure once, or measure twice, so I can do it once. But the industry is definitely going to get shook. And I always tell everybody, too, I was like, the more legal it gets, it just means the more trouble you can get into, because it's not like this small-time trouble where it's just a, possession charge or whatever. It's like all of a sudden it's a fraud charge, or it's like a 10 to 20-year federal
or a tax charge or something like that. It's like, I always say, what did Capone get taken down on? Tax evasion.
And you might get to go to a nicer prison, but for a lot longer time.
Lot longer time. And maybe they'll let you out with gonorrhea like they did him, but we're not all so lucky.
Well, the scary part too is one of the things about this whole time period too is that the really scary, in my opinion, is that there's all these prisons that are empty that Obama tried to fucking close down, and now that we got douchebag and his people in there with all these private prisons that are empty, that they're looking to fill those fuckers up with somebody.
Well, if you have an apartment building, how do you make money at your apartment building? You keep it full.
Right.
So if it's a poor for-profit prison, which is what we're stuck with, they got to keep them full.
And it's scary because, the ones that they don't really want to fill them up with real criminals, because that's like work.
Oh, that's hard.
It's way easier to fill them up with like nonviolent, like cannabis especially, if not, low-end, low-hanging fruit kind of thing. But when it gets to the bigger crimes and the ones that actually make money, then they're all just protected. So it's a classic example. But right now we're in a crazy thing where these guys have empty prisons. They're looking to salivating at the idea of recriminalizing stuff that's proven to be very good for the crime rates. They'll claim they go up and they go down. I'm just like,
well, even just recently, didn't they come out with that saying about teenage drug use or specifically teenage cannabis use in Colorado has gone down since legalization?
Yeah,
and it's gone down every single year.
But it's been reported that it's going up.
Of course,
so,
of course.
By plenty of different
goddamn fake news.
Fake, hella fake news, for sure.
Yeah. But no, it's obviously. I mean,
But it's the same thing that happened in Europe. It was always like that. Like Holland had the lowest amount of cannabis use of any country because it was illegal, and the kids thought it was boring, and they didn't really
readily
care.
available, not even cool.
They were like, whatever. I remember so many times people were like, "You really care about weed?" I was like, "Yes, that's why I'm here." They were like, so boring, and to me, to them, I was just like simple-minded in their mind. Like, really, that's what you're here for? I was like, yes, the weed, of course.
I love weed.
And they're like, yeah, silly American.
Exactly.
Yeah. Silly American.
So
no, it'll be interesting. And we never want to see this cat get put back in the bag, and I just can't imagine it. Having been on this side of it for so long, it will never completely. It can't. But where's the pendulum at right now? We don't know. Where's it swinging? Is it coming back in the middle? Is it going back the other way? Who knows?
Well, it's funny because when we read about Massachusetts, that sounds like Holy Land compared to here, because we don't have that social scene figured out, and that's to me the most undervalued part of it all, which is actually especially from a medicinal point of view, social use is medicinal
in and of itself.
Just because you've got social interaction and you're actually people have a life then, you know what I mean? Compared to sitting at your house, got your little smoke that you got at your shop,
right?
Sit in your indentation in your couch. That's
and
just
get your same old pipe, your Wesley pipes out. You know what I mean?
And then you're just and you watch the same thing on Netflix or whatever it is. It's not really therapeutic, you know what I mean? At that point, it's slightly therapeutic. But if you had
not everything it could be.
If you were out and about or just in a social environment, and you were you'd smoke half as much and get twice the effect. You know what I mean? As far as like,
Oh, we've
like
all done that.
benefits.
Where you're sitting there and you could like literally smoke enough to kill a mammoth, and you're like, I'm not fucking high. And then you go out and you're with the right people, and you take 1 or 2 rips, and you're just blasted.
Yeah.
And it's so situational in that way. And I think you bring up a really nice point, actually, Adam, in that you're missing out on part of the therapy and part of the medicinal aspect, because it's that whole laughter is the best medicine kind of thing, and keeping people socially plugged in. Like, I can think of a number of people that are older folks that definitely are not comfortable about being out in society and using cannabis, and even knowing that they're in places where you can't be open about it, and so they can't socialize with cannabis at all.
Yeah.
It's like you said, it's their little pipe and their little routine and their little, and they got their little fucking 1970s grinder that has actual nails in it.
Yeah, that's pretty cool that Mass did that. That's going to be a cool place to either visit or live at. I mean, that's
progressive.
That's some real big moves, yeah.
Blue crab and weed, man, sweet.
Well, especially if they allow it in restaurants. I mean, of course, I don't want people to smoke necessarily at their table, because I don't really want it to become like I don't want to annoy other people. You know what I mean? I don't want to. I don't want to be that guy. I'd love it if everybody didn't care. That'd be great. Like at the end of your dinner, you like a cigar. People are getting to smoke weed. That's great. But if they just said, "Hey, you know what? We have a courtyard over there. You guys want to go smoke over there?" I'd be like, "Cool."
I'd be like, "Perfect, thank you." That's all.
That's all you need. Exactly. It's like give us a little spot, and then the same with regular smokers. They can go do the same. If you can just literally go in their smoking section and make it smell better than it does,
right?
Instead of be the only guy in there that everyone's like, "Oh wow, at least you smell properly," instead of like nasty fucking. Like when I smell cigars, I'm always just like, really? If they can do that,
they can do that.
I don't understand why we can't smoke weed. Because
Stogs are the real deal, man. Those things smell.
Especially when you see them at like a trade show or something like that, where it's just like, really, like,
come on.
And on top of that, the fucking vape pens are just nuts nowadays. As far as like people who have those mammoth,
the massive ones.
Exactly.
Whatever that fucking thing is.
It's literally like one of those old school batteries, like just.
Oh man,
blowing clouds, dude, just ripping them.
It's so bad for you too.
That's what I'm saying. It's the glycol, just heavy.
That's horrible.
Yeah, the propylene glycol amount, and I mean, it's like popcorn lung central right here. And the funny part is, it's almost like a big gulp. Like the same people, the same guy that would drive around with a big gulp are the same people who would drive around with a gigantic, ridiculous, fucking coconut flavored or pina colada or something like that. And we'd be like, oh my god, like, what is that?
Blowing massive clouds out the window, just like, holy shit.
It is hilarious. I mean, it's a crutch, so people are just using it like that. It's got to be bad for you though. Just
horrible on that level, yeah, absolutely, no doubt about it. But
I remember selling like blunts back in Amsterdam. I'd be selling blunts, and then occasionally I'd end up with like a case of the flavored ones, and in my whole shop, I open it up in the morning, that's all I'd smell.
That's all you smell.
And it was just like, I was like, no way, we're not selling these anymore, because I smell like every other fucking like crap shop that you walk into, which has 50 cases of flavored bullshit, you know what I mean? And now people are concentrating them into their vape pens.
Yeah.
And to me, that's like, it's just such a fucking wrong, unnecessary thing. You know what I mean? And unfortunately, it's like no one's really paying attention. Everyone's just like gobbling that shit.
It's okay, it's not smoke.
It's vaping.
It's better than tobacco. And you're like, I don't know, dude. I think it might be worse.
We have a lot less experience with it as a society, that much I can tell you. We got a lot less of a track record with all the vaping. We're not really sure yet.
Yeah, it's weird because, I mean, it's funny. I have a vape pen here, even just like I don't use it, but whatever. I use it to pack my joint. I was like, that's what it's useful for. But in general, still doesn't have any, even like they don't have any propylene glycol in theirs, and it still works, But it's like, I think this was the 4th place pen in the thing. It was from Higher Vision, a friend of mine, but it's like people just kind of like have this idea, like they forgot that you're not supposed to adulterate it, but just for convenience purposes, because it is quite hard to make some product that works. You know what I mean? That is like an extra processing step or hard to do each time. Do you guys do anything with hardware over? You don't sell any hardware back there. No, that's good. I think that's one of those pitfalls that a lot of people get into, because technology is changing so fast. By the time you get it, it's already it was funny. My friend had the ones with the ball on them, the old school ones, and he had 10 of them to sell, And I was like, man, those are like antiques already. Like nobody uses those anymore. You know what I mean? Because you have to like load those fucking ceramic. And that was his was even like ceramic, so it was a little newer, but still
Not new enough.
It's pretty funny how quickly those things change because
Like
those were
you said.
they were the hot item about 3 years ago.
Oh man, and that I mean, I even just a couple years ago, you did used to be able to like roll around with one, and nobody really knew what it was, and it was kind of cool to be able to do that. Now it's like shit. You could be smoking one with actual nicotine. Everybody just assumes it's cannabis at this point. And then you go into any prohibition state. Woo, they love them. Boy, they love the pens and prohibition
Utah,
states.
man, Utah,
Yeah,
everywhere
yeah.
I went. It was funny too because when we were all paranoid, and then we get out and had Starbucks or something like that a couple years ago, like 2 years ago, I think, on our way to Cali, and the first thing, like, we get out and there's a guy already just cranking down on one, and it was like so funny because I was like, yeah, that's the one time pens are good is when
Yep.
you're in a place like that, you're like, all right, well, at least we know we can get away with it here.
Yeah.
You know, it's going to be like,
It'll get me to when I can actually smoke weed again.
exactly. It's that crutch, that Utah crutch you need when you're traveling.
Yep. No, it's a crutch. It's really, for me at least, it's all because it doesn't have the effect that I prefer from full flower.
It's weird. Yeah, it's one of those things where it's like under the threshold the whole time. So you're like, not really.
Kind of high.
Kind of, sort of. So, Mr. David Moore is here. So, might want to get him on here just for a minute. But, yeah, let me just stick him in the corner over here. You, get over here. You? Yeah. Just get over here. Get in the corner right here. Now you're front and center.
Center.
So, how was your day, Mr. Moore?
It was a fantastic day.
Hold on, let's get your mic on. Yeah, did you work out? How is that next place? How'd it look?
Awesome.
Yeah?
Yep. It's got the drains. It's all set up, 8,000 square feet. It's
good.
beautiful. And the
Beautiful.
media offices for you.
Did you take some photos for me?
Yes, lots of photos.
Okay,
sir.
good. Okay, good. So, we were talking a little bit about. I gave him a kind of a lowdown on your vision in a short, tiny little blip. It was barely a blip. So we can, but mostly just the fact that you are looking at it because he was asking me about distillate actually in the beginning, and that was when I said, well, maybe I'll have somebody on the show later who is completely from the opposite end of the spectrum because of the fact that one thing we all understand is that it might be pretty and it might sound great when you hear these numbers and 99 point whatever, it sounds exciting, but the effect isn't really what you're thinking of. And so you are zoning in, let's say, on the whole entourage effect as being your kind of like your focus of your pretty much your medicine, right?
Absolutely. So the science is coming back and showing us that basically when you combine THC with the other cannabinoids via the entourage effect, that you get a 10 times more psychotropic effect from the THC. So 1 milligram of THC with the entourage effect is equivalent to a 10 milligram dose. So that's pretty cool. Also,
That's huge.
Yeah, and also when you ingest THC, it converts into another chemical compound that is 10 times more psychotropic. So it's really like, it's this doubling effect. It's really wild. It's this synergistic effect that just blows people's minds. So I'll give someone who smokes occasionally one of my capsules, and they won't be able to get off the chair. And one capsule is only like 25% plant matter, and the rest of it's like oils and powders.
Right.
So it's really wild. And the cost is what's so amazing about it. We can get it down to a 400% yield. So that's really the key, is the 400% yield.
I love when he says 400% yield because it's just like your brain shuts down. Like you're like, 400% of what? Like,
Right.
It doesn't make sense. And I know my listeners are all like, 400%? What? This guy's full of shit. That's the first thing that people will say. But when you say 400%, it's because it's 25% plant material. The rest is other things that are added. So in a sense, it's bulk material. You're not talking about effect 400% as
Right.
much as like volume.
Right.
Okay, just so we clear, because our listeners are very
particular.
And the numbers, of course, are one of those things where it's like, wait a minute, he just said 400%. My brain doesn't really comprehend that, because sometimes we'll get results of that'll be 105% or 110%. And I'm like, wait, how does somebody not? How does somebody hand you results of cannabinoid profiles when it's over 100%? It doesn't really make sense, but it's because they just can't dial in. Right now, pretty much everybody's on a like slightly different, spectrometer if they're using one. So it's like the different. Everything's not dialed in exactly the same. So things will add up to over 100% sometimes, and I've seen it where you're like, all right, that just doesn't make sense. It makes me not believe anything that's coming out of this lab right now. But when you say 400%, like you said, it's bulk. And then also a little bit, because I, again, barely touched on anything, but the reason that you're even here in this cannabis world right now and focused on trying to like get it out to the masses is the fact that you became you've always been a smoker, right? Like that's never been an issue.
Since 16, yeah.
Yeah, so it wasn't like you never smoked weed, but you didn't think of it as a medicine until 10 years. How many years ago? What's your?
So about 5 years ago.
So yeah, and that's more recently. But and in discovering it on your and the thing about cannabis is when you have a condition that you figure out that actually works for, whether it be Crohn's or something like that, where it's really like particular. You know what I mean? Like you're like, okay, I feel better. That's pretty noticeable. And if you're suffering, as you had a few conditions, so tell my listeners how you got to this spot.
Yeah, so basically I have autism, and that basically dysregulates my immune system via my bad brain wiring. So I was destined to die in my 40s combined with a bunch of childhood trauma. But basically when you add all this stuff up, basically the science is showing that our whole bodies basically collapse, and there's a cascading of organ failure and all this kind of stuff that happens with traumatic childhood and autism and all this kind of stuff. So basically, I came down with celiac disease, which is an autoimmune disorder, and I went undiagnosed for like 5 years and turned into cancer of the stomach lining, which is a very unique cancer because it covers up the gut flora. And the gut flora is the key to the whole microbiome, which is the gut-brain axis. And basically, if your gut flora is not working, you're not getting all the minerals, nutrients, and vitamins into your system. And then my enamel on my teeth started going bad. Basically, my kidney went into kidney failure. I was about 3 months away from dying, and I had to figure out a way to make this a medicine work. And I couldn't afford the concentrates. And the concentrates were coming back with pesticides and heavy metals, and it was making things worse. So I had to figure out a way to make this effective and cost-effective at the same time. So that's when I started experimenting, and I found up in my research that the Egyptian pharaohs used to have their shamans actually take cannabis and put it in a clay pot out in the desert in the middle of the summer and bury it. And
with oil?
With coconut oil, yeah. And they would leave it out there. It would get super hot in the day and super cold at night. And I just extrapolated that idea into my patent. And as a result, basically, we're going to be able to produce all kinds of product lines that are so inexpensive that everybody can afford it. So a bottle of 60 capsules will be $33.
Oh, wow.
That's incredible.
Nice work.
Yeah,
that's amazing.
And it's replicable, which is good, too, because you're not making... So, like, for instance, every time we talk to somebody there, because we walked around a little bit at the show, and it's like, okay, so what's your extract? It's like, no, it's not an extract. It's a whole plant. You know what I mean? So that makes it from a grower's point of view, and from, actually seeing like sometimes it's crazy when you grow it, extract it, go through all of this work to create this beautiful plant, then take and extract it, and then come back out with this other small sliver of what it was. And then take that and put it into product, which you don't even notice it anymore. You've lost all the original profiles. Kind of lame, you know what I mean, in the long run, because it's like, you definitely are. It's almost like even just when you're drying weed, it just feels weird because other things you grow it and then you sell it as boom, here it is. I grew a 10-pound, boom, put it on the scale. With weed, it's like you already kind of get the defeated thing of growing all this mass and then drying it up, and then you're like, man, there's hardly any other things except for like tea that you do this with. Everything else is all fresh, and you kind of get the benefit of the, wow, you get the yield. But in the end, it's like it's a struggle already, and then on top of that, you're extracting on the top 3%, let's say, or whatever.
Right.
It's kind of just disheartening. So it is nice to use everything if you can.
And with the hemp herb, it's FDA approved to be sold as a dietary supplement.
Wow.
Because it's not an extract.
Right.
So if I'm processing the whole herb, it's actually legally to be sold as a dietary supplement. So I can sell it at Whole Foods, Sprouts, Costco, Walmart. It doesn't matter.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
Yeah, and I think the cool part is like kind of like a witch's brew where we know cannabis works when you do use it all, like when you use it as a whole plant. So like definitely know it's going to work, which is awesome because kind of like vitamins too, where you like if you take vitamins and they're not really whole, they're not like a plant, food based, they're kind of like synthetic and you're not really going to, it's not really going to work. You know what I mean? It's going to be one of those, like it might work, but maybe, but then if you do take them properly, and use them at the right time, and after about a month, you're going to see results when it's like, so it's hard. And with a lot of times with cannabis products, it's either works too good or it doesn't work at all. You know what I mean? Like either you're sleeping and you're like, well, it definitely worked, but didn't really.
Now I can't do anything.
Wasn't very functional at that point. But I think you're also talking like 10 per or something, or 25. What was your milligram per capsule?
1 milligram of THC per capsule.
Okay, so I mean, easy to regulate that. I'd hope.
One would hope.
Yeah.
And then the hemp ones obviously have negligible THC.
And then also, I mean, the cool part, I mean, through your journey, you obviously change your diet, which is huge because that's kind of the basis of everything when it comes to health, you know. So
Absolutely, man. So understand that because of my autism, I didn't sleep for 40 years. So until I started ingesting cannabis, I do 8 capsules a day. It saved me thousands of dollars a year because I no longer smoke. Not because I don't want to, just because it's more effective to ingest it for me. You know? So 8 capsules a day, and it builds up. And so by the time it's 10 p.m., I'm sleeping like a baby, and I've never slept my whole life. So it's like a miraculous experience, and it's so invigorating and loving and exciting to be able to sleep and wake up and be happy. Like that's never happened.
When you say you don't sleep, do you literally mean you don't sleep, or you just kind of like
I never go into REM. Yeah, I'm always rolling around. I wore through all my sheets from rubbing them, and it's just really bad.
Crazy.
Yeah, and that's literally when you notice when people are sleeping properly, it's like they're like stuck to the thing. They can't move. Your body's like totally. You can see that you're using that time properly. Now everything's energizing, all that stuff. If you're rolling around, then it's like I can imagine in the long run
all that cortisol from the social anxiety, no sleep, the stress, the anxiety, all that kind of stuff just builds up, and it comes out at night, and I can't sleep, and I'm thinking my brain doesn't work right, so I'm always thinking. But now that I ingest cannabis, we can save all these autistic kids from a lifetime of hell, okay, just by getting them to ingest this stuff.
Yeah, and that's I think the spear kind of head is that the fact that, okay, back when it was legalization in California, it was pretty much the AIDS epidemic and the fucking people who were fighting for that were the ones that put it together that made cannabis even be accepted, because it was like, oh, well, these guys got AIDS, they're dying, let them have some weed, and that was like the spear that kind of broke it open. Then the conditions kind of they got more conditions onto the ballot, and then it became, pretty much the spearhead that opened it all up. Now it's like Colorado, it's kids and all their conditions, you know what I mean? Because that's what makes everybody here realize well, shit, we got 300 families here right now with kids, and probably more that we don't even know about, but there's a good 300 right out of the gate that all moved here to take care of their kids, and they're going to keep coming if they don't open up in their own states, but they are opening up, and a lot of them can go back. But for the most part, that's can't argue, you know what I mean? Right. It's like, what are you going to do? Argue these kids don't deserve nothing.
Right. How do you
mean?
argue with that? You can't.
And in general, I think it's you're like one senator away from them having the same thing with their kid, you know what I mean? Or one politician or one person in command that can actually go holy shit, this really does work, you know what I mean? And that's happening daily, you know what I mean? Because the numbers, everything's kind of getting into that watershed moment where everyone's going to be like, wait a minute, 1 in 3 kids have autism now, you know what I mean? The numbers are getting kind of crazy, where they are getting to the definitely at 1 in 10 and more than that now, and it used to be 1 in 10,000. So it's that's pretty quickly moving to the point where it'll be 1 in 2, 1 in 3. So they'll almost,
So if they ingest, like you said, the vegetarian diet is such a big deal because the bad bacteria from the rotten flesh or from the meat takes over the microbiome, and basically feeds that bad bacteria to all of your organs, including your brain, your central nervous system. So if you're sick, you have to go vegetarian. And then if you ingest bioavailable cannabis on top of that, you can reduce your recovery time by half on all diseases, basically. Because all disease starts in the gut. It starts in the gut from the inflammatory response from the bad bacteria from the meat, period. Right? So when you add dairy and sugar and corn syrup and all these toxins, they destroy your whole system. You must reset your system by going vegetarian and then ingesting bioavailable cannabis.
Must. I like the word must. You must. Well, I mean, it definitely is it's a good idea to fast anyway once in a while and go for a couple days and just kind of like get your system reset, just because it only takes 3 days of fasting, which is not even a long time. And it's like a lot of people don't realize that they have 3 meals a day, and I've always been like, well, 1 good meal a day, I'm actually pretty good with that, because I can, like, as long as I time it right. And then usually a complete snack attack around 1 o'clock in the morning. I'll be like, all right, 1 meal and then 1 just complete blah, 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 cereal. And then like, just like, oh, what else can I have now? Like peanut butter and jelly and a cereal and a this and a that, whatever, whatever I can do. And it's always at 1 o'clock. It's weird. It's literally like, I'll look at the clock and be like, oh, it's 1:00, or it's like 12:58. I was like 2 minutes early today. But no, in general, it's noticeable. But I think it's better for the system, because you kind of get everything burnt up.
Right.
So through all this self-education, you also, like you were saying before, I think we were talking about the whole kratom thing too. So that was
Kratom, yeah, man. So I got a lot of friends and family that are heroin addicts, and I've been trying to get them off of drugs by using marijuana and dabs. And dabs really help a lot during that first week of recovery. But they need to stay on dabs for at least 9 months, because the depression caused from heroin addiction lasts for at least 9 months. Because those endorphins are burnt, the endorphin receptors are totally burnt. It's totally torched. So you got to dab. But the withdrawals, man, the withdrawals are only going to be cured by kratom, man. It's the only way. No one can handle the withdrawals. I don't know anyone who can handle it. It's worse than anything. It's just such a bad experience. So I didn't know what to do to help anyone to get off. So I would get them on methadone, and that's worse than the heroin.
Yeah, methadone is just like another. You're just basically taking one evil thing.
Yeah, with a blocker.
Yeah, and
it's heroin with a blocker.
Right.
Great, so thanks.
Exactly. Exactly. So you're kind of like, great, now don't get the good reward, but still have to go through all the same bullshit. Your body doesn't like leave the spectrum of being poisoned. You know what I mean? So you're still in that. And I've always been an advocate of a kind of a dab rehab kind of mentality, just because I knew that would always work. I could always see, just because also
dab rehab.
It's also the idea,
man, brother.
It's also the idea that literally the same terminology. It's like you got a rig, you know what I mean? And you got fucking little bindles of fucking stuff. And that's what people love. I mean, they get into that little.
It's the routine. Yeah, no, it's the routine for sure.
And for a lot of them, that is like, if they didn't have that part, and then the destructive part is the actual drug, and then on top of that, it's the social scene that they're dealing with, and the people that they're all of a sudden they're fucking stealing shit and being just because of the need and the availability and what's the people that you're dealing with, you know what I mean? So, and then weed is, plenty of people use it as a crutch, and you see that, you see people who are like, probably shouldn't smoke so much weed because they're just wasting their time, but is that whose car is that? It's not mine. That's all I care. You sitting on it? Was that you? Sitting on your lawn?
Wasn't me.
That would be normal. But no, in general, there's always people that are going to use it, too much, and usually it's one of those things where I'll be sometimes amazed. I smoke a lot of weed, and then I'll hang out with somebody who smokes way more than me, and I'll be like, almost like I know that they don't need it. I don't need it. They definitely don't need it. You know what I mean? But they're just at that moment. And no, I think with anybody coming off of any kind of hard drugs, it's a much softer landing for sure. And then they might even, they get other benefits that they don't realize, because it's like, first it's the action that's obvious, and then you get that stimulated appetite, which is probably never a bad thing, and probably hasn't happened to them in years. And they'd be
Right.
like, what is this?
They've been living off of ice cream and sugar candies.
Yeah, or in Holland it was always this stuff called vla, which was like pudding, and it came in a fucking like milk thing, and they would just junkies would be on the side of the road just squeezing that because that's all they could do because they couldn't chew because their teeth were all fucked. You know what I mean?
Sucking down the vla.
And you knew that you were like, oh, that's
Gumming it down.
They'd be stealing it all the time. It'd be like junkies stealing vla.
Again?
Yeah, it'd just be like this chocolate or vanilla pudding in a giant blah, So you were at a bad level if that was your fucking diet consisted of that. Pretty much.
For sure. The malnutrition is a huge part of the recovery. I mean, it's such a big deal. They don't realize that they've been killing their bodies until they get off of it.
But it's interesting too because now I'm going on 10 months of alcohol, and I used to notice that I would just drink 6 beers instead of and now I'm like spending all my money on food. As I go to the fucking Nature Grocers and I just like spend it doesn't matter if I go there for like kitchen towels, I spend $100. I'm I need this and that and those and this because I don't have anything else to do at night because I'm just doing dabs or smoking weed, and pretty much now I'm really hungry. So now I'm all of a sudden again, those late night snacks, those are what go. But I'm pretty much buying food massive amounts, and it's mostly going through my kid, which is amazing because I'm like, hey, that kid eats a lot of food for just a tiny little guy. I'm just like feeding him all the quality.
Give him 10 more years.
Oh yeah, and then oh yeah, well 10 years will be hell because he'll be 16 at that point. So he'll be wanting to use the car, and they'll be like, no, come on, you're not.
We chasing tail.
Oh yeah, should already have a harem by that point. I already know that. He's gonna have it. He's going to be making moves earlier than that. But anyway. So
And I digress.
So the reason that you're in Colorado is that you were thinking about doing some of this, obviously using this as a sort of beta test zone for your products?
Yeah, well, obviously Denver's the epicenter of cannabis, and they're the pathfinders, and everybody's here. So
California would definitely have something to say about that. I'm sure.
I know.
But in general,
the
right
legal
now,
pathfinders.
There you go. That's a good recovery because it is one of those things where again, like we're saying, like we are in a sense at that kind of the moment where none of us really have. Well, none of us have been because it's just new. Every day is a new sort of frontier when it comes to. Even in Holland, they never had it this long legal, considered legal, and yet still not figured out. And we know it's not even close to where it needs to be. So, and I think part of it is like it's good that Massachusetts, we were just reading about that they're going to let it be in restaurants and movie theaters, and they're like going to open it up a lot more than here, which is going to make Denver be like, wait a minute, what the hell were we thinking? We want movie theaters because that come on. How hard is it to see the...
Well, can I bring up a controversial topic here? They're doing those smoking things in Las Vegas, right? They're just starting to do new smoking lounges, I guess. They just passed it yesterday or a couple of days.
Did they finally pass it?
I think so. Someone told me about it. Anyways, the point is that what do you think tourists are going to do when they first try this killer marijuana and then drink?
Killer?
Yeah.
Well, they can't in the same place, right? Because it's not going to allow. So, hopefully... that's the
yeah,
whole
but
thing.
they'll go one door down. It is Vegas.
It ain't gonna matter.
I'm just saying, these first timers are going to puking all over the place.
Well, the key is that if they come
that
into
when they drink and smoke, they're going to puke.
If they come into your establishment all drunk, then you just have to train your bars. You have to train your staff to know that when you can smell the alcohol coming off of them and they're being a douche to you, then you just don't serve them. You'd be like, you know what? Sorry, sir. We have the right to refuse your fucking
because
asshole.
You are right. They will puke all over the place if they come in like that.
Well, especially if it's that way.
Yeah, it'll happen. Yeah.
But if you have them into your place first and they haven't drank a lot of alcohol, and then you get them really high and they go off, they're going to be fine. So it's just really like the timing is all about. It's like literally if you do the other way around though, if you're like got a little good buzz going on, and then you go in and you're like, whoa, what's this dab thing? I've never tried. And then all of a sudden you're like,
it'll be like the first cannabis cup all over again.
Well, you get your bell rung.
Right. That's what I'm scared of. I'm scared it's going to be some kind of stigma.
You get your bell rung
because of these idiots.
The thing is,
we've been dealing with that for a while. For sure.
Okay, it's not like we've never seen anybody super drunk on alcohol falling on their face and we still, not me personally, but we still drink as a society. But we all seen the results of everything. So it's kind of like
seen the back end of it.
And cannabis is like, it's new to some people, and those people will be shocked when they see somebody go down because they basically have not eaten good, kind of drunk, and they took their dab. That's going to happen. It's going to happen
all the time.
And it happened at the Cup here so bad one year.
So bad. The first year was here, and that's what I was referencing. It was so. I mean,
so
dropping like flies.
Because it was hot. It was
literally, and fucking paramedics all over the place.
Yeah, it was hot.
Oh, they had and they had chairs behind. I was like, man, it's probably a bad idea if they have crash chairs. And that's what they were calling them.
Yeah.
Hey, here's your glass of water and the crash chairs behind you in case you get a little lightheaded.
No, it was a rough one. And the same thing happened at Chalice too. Chalice had the same because it was so hot. People were just because it was in July. It's like 1st of July in fucking or the 10th or the first week in July.
Yeah.
In the desert in California. That shit's gonna be hot, right? So,
yeah.
So people were literally falling out left and right. And it's all about being, and here it's a lot because we have altitude, so people need to land.
Come on, altitude.
You add the altitude on top.
Yeah, that's the thing. Get a good strong brew, and then over. Yeah.
I love it.
We've seen it, and the thing is, I mean, I've been smoking for 30 years or whatever, and 40, 35 years, something like that, and then I've gone down twice, and I know them both. I know 2 times I went down, and both times it was. One was like that kind of combo where it was just not eating and all that, but it was mostly temperature orientated. And it was because I would change temperature in like a real short amount of time and get like that kind of woozy thing. And I had it once where I was in my house doing a bong hit, and I'm sitting in a house in Amsterdam, and the problem is those places are really badly insulated, so they have like one heater in the corner, so all the heat kind of goes up and hits the top. And kind of stays, and you stay down here and you're all cold. You're like, fuck, it's so cold in this place. So like I literally like did a bong hit, stood up at the exact same time as I was like doing like did a total Mexican standoff, and then tried to walk to the kitchen and was just like everything just went, and I was like on the ground, and my friend Mo and his girlfriend were like looking over at me. And I kind of woke up, and they were like, dude, you went down. You know what I mean? I was like, whoa, it's never happened before. That was the first time. And then the second time was similar, but it wasn't like so dramatic on the temperature thing, but it was definitely like change. It was going inside and outside and fucking same sort of deal, but I was like just worn out. Oh, and then I guess I should probably count the time that I was driving 65 miles an hour and I fell asleep at the fucking drive-in, and I wasn't really high, but it wasn't from a bong hit, but it was it was like that was the other time I've ever passed out, but probably the least recommended of the 3. Definitely the 2 doing the bong hit way better. Like do a bong hit, pass out, you're like, that was kind of cool.
That wasn't so bad.
That wasn't the worst thing in the world, but driving and doing it, that was one of those ones where it was like, yeah, not good, but
that'll be legit if Vegas has those lounges by this spring.
I know, they need to. That's the problem. So they're selling it recreation. There's no place to smoke it.
Yeah,
you're smoking on the streets.
Yeah, no, it's the most ironic thing about Denver and Colorado in general that they haven't figured that part of the puzzle. Whereas in Amsterdam, it was so you got 400 places selling weed, and you're not allowed to get it from anywhere, so it's all illegal. So that didn't make sense either. So there was like a part of the circle that didn't make sense. Here it was like you could buy it, you could grow it, you could sell it, you can't smoke it. So that kind of didn't complete it. And the thing is that in Vegas, it's over if they really do it smart, because why would anybody come here and smoke if they could go there? The only thing they want to do is go skiing here, and that'd be the only thing that'll keep people coming, because the rest of it is there's like absolutely no fucking reason to come here. You know what I mean? It's like unfortunate, but that's the kind of like they're not really playing their cards right if they don't think that like it's not like
they have not taken advantage of the cannabis tourism aspect of it. They really haven't. I mean, it's obviously been here, and there's businesses surrounding it and stuff. But as far as the state really embracing it, no,
not at all. No. Not to the point of like to the tune of hundreds of millions a year. You know what I mean?
Literally.
Because what I always tell everybody is like, if you take $20 worth of cannabis and you buy it, right, to get to that cannabis as a tourist, you had to buy a ticket first of all to get here, right? So you paid airport tax and all that already. So let's get that, take some of that right out of the chunk, because just to get here you had to pay something. Then you had to stay in a hotel. Then so you use more tax, you get your city tax and all that coming up there. Then you had to go to a restaurant. Then you had to go get that weed. Then you had nowhere to smoke the weed, so you had to go fucking sit in your car and break the law, or go to
some park and break the law.
Go to the park, break the law. So basically, you've now come here, spent money, but you had to break the law, so there's a chance you can get in trouble. Probably won't, but at the end of the day, then you still manage to go buy another 20 sack at some point at a different shop. But to get to that one, you still had to take an Uber and do this. So you just keep adding all those fucking things up. It's like to buy $40 worth of weed, you had to spend like thousands of dollars. And it's like, so the numbers are actually way more in their favor than they are in the weed people's favor. Plus, those people had to pay shitload of tax on the weed too. So so they're getting money on the weed and the tourists. But they get money on everything, except that because they were trying to pretend like they're not in bed with the people who are making all the. Because right now they are breaking the law just as much as we are. If they're going to get all bitchy about it, you're actually a partner with me now. Like, we're giving you money. That means we're in bed together as a business. And so if the feds come in and sort of say something to me, they have to say something to you too, right? I mean, it's like, come on. So kind of feel like we're in agreement about that as far as they want all the money, but they don't want to give us free space. And that's the weirdest thing. So I think it's going to happen. So then Vegas is going to, because Vegas was actually waiting for us, and we just suck. So we can't even go, like, we can't even get that together.
Yeah, there's literally one just the other day that was applied for, but you can, I think, what is it? Consume edibles and vape. Yeah.
I can do that anywhere.
Yeah.
Where can you not consume edibles?
I'm not. They have a license to go consume edibles.
And you can go. You can get coffee there too. Don't forget it, guys. You can get coffee there.
Yeah. So what is?
I can get coffee anywhere, and I can eat edibles wherever I feel like. I'm not paying $5 to get in the door.
Exactly. You got to pay $5 to eat an edible, and then it's still not going to work until you get home anyway.
Right.
So, I mean, really,
what am I going to sit there for 2 hours?
There's no. And then the vape part. Okay. Technically, that means we can do dabs. So vaping is dabbing. It's all the same thing. So there's no flames. As long as there's no flame, we're sublimating, right? Here, sublimation. It's the same thing as vaping. So theoretically, that'd be the only cool part about it is we could have a nice vape bar, or vape/dab bar.
But they probably wouldn't want it. They probably just want this nice little pen. They wouldn't want the rig. Like,
but they can't really argue if you say, well, fuck you. I mean, it's like I'm staying within that.
Pens.
No.
I think they specifically say vape pens and edibles.
Oh,
there you go.
Oh my God!
I can't stand anywhere and do that. I mean, I could go in front of you could go stand in front of the fucking city hall and just
sitting right in front of the coffee shop and smoke my vape and eat my edibles.
So that doesn't mean shit. You know what I mean?
Right. No. Exactly.
I saw the same thing. I commented on that thing when I saw it. I was just like, that doesn't make any sense.
It's not even halfway there.
No.
How many people have been fined for smoking in their hotel rooms? I've been fined several times.
Hotel rooms, I would never know the numbers, but actual fines of like people getting arrested, I think it was like 400 or something like that last year, 337 or something like that.
Holy shit!
Yeah,
quite
a decent amount. And
More than ever.
Parks and 16th Street Mall, and
and it used to be like 140, and now it's gone up like till 300 or something. But that's just because they're enforcing it more. It's not because there's more of it.
And the hotels will charge you a cleaning fee too.
Oh yeah,
right?
well unless I've been hit with some cleaning fees.
I've seen a few of those.
Yeah, I've seen a few of those.
Well, those are like
for smoking.
Some places will. I mean, it's weird too because there's places that are like so on it that
they're waiting for it.
You get fined. You haven't even smoked there yet. You're like, dude, I just have weed in my bag. It's like,
I've
and
literally
they're
done that.
And they're going like, no, you can smoke.
No,
like,
I'm like, no.
I haven't even got in the room yet. You know what I mean? It's like, come on. It's like they're sometimes ridiculous.
I have definitely been accused via the loudness of the weed before I even smoked any of it. What happens? And I swear they're waiting for it.
So they're talking by the spring of 2018, Vegas will may have marijuana lounges, but that means they will for sure.
Gonna have it, yeah.
And again, that's like the obvious smart move. It was already like before because the problem with, as you know, in Vegas is that it's all tobacco and liquor boards and people that are like they're in control of everything, and it's like. Isn't it the transportation through them?
It has to be done through the liquor distributors.
Listen, that's like nuts.
And you got to hire a liquor distributor to transport your weed from one room to the next room in the same building.
Sounds like Vegas.
That's like union. That's like
that is some union shit, dude.
That's
some union shit.
You got tip to go.
Yeah. Hey, I'm not out here for my health over here, and you're like, whoa, hey, give Vinny some money over there. He just moved it from 8 feet. That was the first time I ever had to deal with union was going to Vegas and doing a weed show, doing for Champs, and like at the edge of the place, and I was like walking, and the guy's like, yo, yo, yo. I'm like, what? He goes, you can't see your feet. And I'm like, what are you talking about? He goes, if you can't see your feet, you got to make us carry it. And I'm like, I can see my feet. And he's like, no, you can't. Because I was like holding this shit. And I was already like halfway across the floor. And I was like, fuck you, man. I just walked on. It turned into a big deal. And of course, in the end,
some goons showed up.
Totally. And we didn't pay a dime. We went in.
didn't?
No, I said,
Nice.
fuck you. I stood my ground. I was like, we're carrying it. We don't care. And
In
then they were-
Chicago, they would have beat the shit out of you.
Yeah.
it's nuts, though. I mean, I didn't realize it until this is like in 2009, and actually, no, you know what? It was Los Angeles. It wasn't. It was in Los Angeles at their main thing, and it was just, but it was all union guys, and I didn't get I didn't understand the concept because I was just coming back from Europe. Like, what union? What is?
$200 you got to pay him to go like this. Plug in a plug.
That's exactly what it is.
Yeah.
Thanks, man.
Yeah, appreciate that.
And an extra 200 for one to watch him do it too, dude.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, can't forget about that. Always got to have it takes two to tango, so you got to pay them both.
Yeah, and that is the and then the worst part about those things is that once you've done it, like you realize when you do them in those humongous places that it's like you can't smoke there obviously, but also it's like as professional as it is. I much rather have one at a hotel where you got cool place. They rent out every room like old school style. You got your little fucking suites all set up. To me, those were the best shows because you kind of like wasn't the same walking up and down, right?
Intimacy, man.
Yeah. So I think people will appreciate the Stanley Hotel would be a cool one to do a whole show at. Just because then everyone would be curious to go there just because they'd want to. Was it 237? Was it 237?
I think so. That sounds right.
Yeah.
The Cowboy Room, right?
I want room 237.
I gotta have it.
But they do some cool shit up there.
Yeah, actually, Leftover
concerts
Salmon's
and-
doing a 3-day run up there in March. It's only like I think 800 people or something right there in their ballroom. It's supposed to be pretty badass. Yeah.
That would be pretty nuts. I would think.
I have tickets.
Yeah. Oh yeah, you're gonna be there.
Yeah, well, we'll see if I get so much shit going on. It's one of those things like if you don't get them right away, you're definitely not going.
Right.
So.
And when is that?
It's like March. It's right around Spanibus, actually. I think so. I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah, I think that'd be a great place to do something like that. Something
Oh,
cool,
yeah.
memorable, and
Yeah.
then like I said, if it's 800 people, that's actually a great show because you actually could probably talk to most of them, or at least the ones that you wanted to talk to. Whereas when we were in that Vegas show, it was ridiculous. I mean, how many like so many people were there that I know I didn't get to see, and like
Was
actually
like 15,000 people or something?
Yeah.
I forget what it was.
And you just saw how we got like 100 feet down, and I maybe made it 100 feet in each aisle, and I just feel like,
struggle back to the biz.
Because it's just like it is, and everybody's just like saying this. Oh my god, it's big. I was like, I can only say that enough times. We're like, yes, it's big. Yes, everyone sucks, and they're all going to be gone next year. So it's pretty much the same thing. Everybody had the same thing.
Well, the worst part is the educational seminars. No one's getting paid to go teach, and they all have to have a booth to be able to teach a seminar. So they're up there with their own business interests, hiding and shielding and lying and doing all kinds of stuff during their educational seminar, and therefore the message isn't clear and concise or even true. So it's a really big problem, I mean, basically...
Well, there are a lot of infomercials going on there
Yeah.
for sure. And a lot of that, you're like, oh, really? Okay. So I thought
people need practical workshop advice. People are seeking real advice. Like, please, I need help to understand what to do.
Right.
And no one is being given that advice. They're like, go pay a lawyer $150,000. I mean, Mary Jane got up and talked for 45 minutes, the CEO of Mary Jane, and she said that she spends most of her money on lawyers. Right? So she's talking about millions of dollars a year on lawyer fees. And that's being transferred to the customer.
Of course it is.
This is outrageous. These lawyers all need to be taken down.
Well, that's I'm still from the, when I hear the word lawyer, when I hear the word permit, when I hear those words, I'm like, oh, God, I don't even want to think about it because it's like the last thing I want to do is pay a fucking lawyer anything ever, if possible. But the reality is, at a certain point, you do have to bite bullet and fucking lawyer up and just make sure,
especially with the FDA.
That's how we met first. Is basically you coming up to me and me going, oh, not even saying about lawyers, but just like, yeah, watch out. You're about to get fucking, you're like chum cruising around, and there's a bunch of sharks out there, and they're just fucking, I'm gonna tear you up. And sure enough, that's kind of what sort of seemed to happen.
4 years of hell.
Yeah, and as you know, it's like the good part about this industry too is I think in a way if you don't have some sort of resistance to like failure, because I mean that's one of the things that it doesn't matter how good your idea is, it doesn't matter how fucking on point you are. Like it took me, and it's funny because next year's my 25th anniversary as far as TH Seeds and Hoodlam, right? So those are like 93. So when we started, and me and my partner were like kind of thinking like everything, like 5 years from now it'll be legal probably. We had obviously over anticipating, and but now we are 25 years later. Everything we ever thought plus more is happening. So it's kind of like, whoa, this shit's really getting to the point where it's becoming, a real thing. But it took literally 20 plus years for the ideas that we had then to kind of catch up to being actual things. And in a scary way, it's kind of like, almost like when you wish something and then it happens and you're like, oh man, now it's kind of like weird because that was a fantasy. Like this is something that should never really happen, but it's actually happening, and we're at that phase now. So it's kind of like seeing marijuana lounges in spring in Las Vegas. That to me, that headline is already nuts because that's been my prediction from the beginning of like, man, if America could, like the first time I ever went to Vegas after living in Amsterdam for 20 years, because I never went there as a kid, I went there later, was like in 2010 or 9 or something like that, and I was like, man, if they just had weed here, this whole town would be great. But it's because of that fucking, it was still like, we could only stay at the Rio, or we could only stay at the fucking, what other shitty hotel they used to do the fucking Champs at? That was like, it was like they knocked it down or whatever that one was. But it was like, we were still definitely on the bottom end of the rung. Now all of a sudden it's top, you know what I mean? Now it's becoming like the biggest tax contributor, like in Colorado, for sure. You know what I mean? Like there's no doubt about it. Like some towns, like for sure it's the dispensary putting in, or maybe the King Super or fucking those kind of things. But besides that, it would be the dispensary that probably gives the biggest tax to the,
sure.
like in Windsor, like where Derek had his place, he was the second biggest contributor behind fucking Safeway or something, So it's like, and that was a tiny little town.
But I don't think the casinos are really back in this marijuana thing.
No, that's the crazy part is they haven't figured
People
it out.
drink less and gamble less.
So I know. Well,
Perfect.
They have to come up with. Well, the thing is though, is people are more willing to do a lot of other things though that they wouldn't. That those people who spend money on just gambling and the thing is that for those gamblers, it's a constant ebb and flow too, where they have to pay them to do it. Whereas weed guys, we won't expect as much. We're not going to go up there thinking we're getting free drinks all night because we don't care anymore. So we don't. First of all, don't worry.
Stoned,
So just think about how much free alcohol they give out every year, and just start putting that money towards like, oh yeah, well so. They don't drink as much at your bar, but if you gave them their own area where they could smoke and gave them other cool shit to do, they'd probably
really nice
go for that.
bar,
All of a sudden, they'd be like, hey, finally, something that's not alcoholic that's really good. You know what I mean? And then you have all that untapped fucking resources, which it's not like they can't come up with some cool things. You know what I mean? It's Vegas. You can have
what Steve Wynn's doing with his.
Literally have a fucking like ridiculous Sunday bar that goes on for like 2 miles. You know what I mean? They'd be like, dude, have you been to the 2 mile Sunday bar? And you're down there like putting that on a scale at the end and be like, fuck, I just spent a week's wages on a Sunday, because they're just totally high. You know what I mean? They're missing out on all that possibilities. The things that actually maybe don't necessarily have to be alcohol, tobacco, or fucking,
It's just casinos rule Vegas. They rule.
I know. But they could still have those people. The thing is, they wouldn't hurt anything by bringing in weed, because weed people don't necessarily, it's not like our biggest problem is that we want to have a beer in one hand and a joint in the other. And that never happens. That's the problem. That is the hardest. That's not going to happen in Vegas yet either.
No.
Vegas is going to be, you go over here and smoke your weed, and you guys go over there and drink your beers, and if it's in the same facility, you're going to have to put your beer down to go smoke a joint, and then come back, and then you're going to be roofied, and then you're going to fucking be, or your shit's going to be gone, or you're going to have to chug your beer before you go in. It's kind of like what Amsterdam's turned into also. It used to be totally cool, and you could go to the Milk Veg, and you could just fucking have a beer, watch a band, smoke a joint, and be like, this is so cool. And then all of a sudden, around 2003 or 4, they started with the Indoor Clean Air Act over there. So they came around and they said, it was really weird, for about 2 or 3 months, they actually read the law the way it was written, and after that they kind of like rewrote it to make it even to get cannabis out. But for a little while there, it was tobacco. You can't smoke tobacco inside. So everyone was like, okay, cool, I can smoke weed, right? Yep. I was like, this is fucking awesome, dude. We can smoke weed. They can't. They have to all go outside with their mixed joints. And they were running around and checking people's joints while they were rolling them, like making sure they weren't putting tobacco in it. And then it just turned into a shit show. And then they were like, you know what? Now nobody's respecting the rules. Everyone's rolling fucking tobacco joints. So we're going to fucking make it so you can't smoke any joints. And I was like, God damn it. They fucked my shit up. Because for a little while, I was like, oh my God, dude, we are like the only ones in the club half the time because everyone's outside smoking cigarettes, and we'd be like, "This is awesome, bro!" And everybody knew that we smoked pure because we were American guys that were living there. So like all the guys who worked there were like, "Oh yeah, Adam's cool. He smokes pure." And then at one point they were like, "Hey, you can't smoke," and I was like, "What?" And they're like, "Yeah, new rules," And I was just like, it's like my friend telling me I can't smoke in the fucking club that I've been smoking for the last 15, 18 years. And I was like, "What? What do you mean?" It's like, yeah, they were changed. I was like, no. So now we have to go upstairs into the little smoking box with everybody and be like, well, and then you can't bring your drinks up to that area. You have to fucking. It was just like being a kid. Like all of a sudden you felt like you're 8 years old. You're like, so really, I can't. And that to me is like the most simple thing. It's like if you can just find a place that's going to allow you to have a joint and a beer. Forget hard alcohol, just a beer.
Just beer.
Just a beer.
That's fucking beer.
Because once you get the hard alcohol mixed into it, then you get the crazy coke head aggro weed guys. That is not even fun anymore.
No good anymore.
No fun.
We've gone
Vegas
far.
is full of those guys.
So you're saying Vegas needs to diversify their portfolio of guests?
Oh, that too. It would help.
Oh, yeah.
That would help. I mean, because the thing is, the weed people go there anyway, and it's starting to become normal enough.
You know, drinkers lose their inhibitions and lose all their money too. That's what's so great about drinkers.
Weed people lose wallets, dude. So we lose all our money. We lose all of our money at once in just one sweep.
Fail
we don't even have to like waste time on a fucking machine. You just here you go. Whoops, lost it. Yeah, we're not. And we miss flights, and we stay longer than ever, and we know all those things. It's like
all those fees.
There's a lot of bonus points with stoners, and we never complain. That's the thing. Alcohol, people complain, pass out, messy. It's just like, it's a whole lot of
violence.
They forget what they did the night before. They abuse your staff. You know what I mean? That kind of shit is way tiring after a while. But weed people are like way courteous. They're fucking over courteous. You know, they're like,
so they don't hit me with that room cleaning fee.
Exactly. They're nervous. We always tip. I always leave either $5 or $10 every time for my cleaning lady because I don't want them to come in and go, hey, it smells a little like weed, and then you're busted. Right. So you have to like make them happy. Give them at least $10. And if they see $10, they don't give a fuck how stinky it is. They're like, whatever, $10. Boom, this guy's cool. You know,
he's good. He's good.
So the cleaning staff gets paid good. Besides, I mean, what else? We're the best. That's all I know. Stoners are the best human beings on the planet. I'm telling you, it's a good way to filter them out. Once you get the real deal, you're like, yeah, these guys, they know what's up. So I think on that note, we're going to finish it up because we went over, I think, by like 5 minutes, bro.
Like 4 minutes.
4 minutes over the 3-hour mark.
Ooh.
3-hour tour. I need to get that little 3-hour tour.
Well, we appreciate it as always, Adam. Thanks for having us.
Thanks for coming on this mission.
Thank you, Adam. We definitely do. Thank you.
Of course. We'll hopefully be seeing more of Mr. Moore.
Thank you.
Not the other guy, though. That guy was a douche. That other Moore guy was a total douche. He's not related to you, right?
I don't know.
You spell the same, though, huh?
7th most common surname in America.
It's pretty damn... 7th? 7th? Okay.
Really? No shit.
Yeah.
We don't need any more Moores, right?
No more. No more, please.
No
more Moores. They just produce more. That's the problem.
Yeah,
Does Moores produce more and more and
the
more?
puns abound.
Well, we haven't had a girl in my family for 5 generations.
So there's a lot more Moores. Yeah.
More. Well, more means grandmother in Swedish too. So there you go. More.
Learn something every day.
More. All right. Well, on that note, I want to thank all the sponsors. I want to thank Hazel at the Emerald Cup for such a good time the last week when we missed you guys. It was all in good. It was definitely worth it. Anybody who has a chance. Next year, I don't know why you're not out there. I mean, come on. You need to go to that one.
Definitely.
It's more fun, less stress.
Yeah.
You probably would find something cool there. Want to thank all the listeners, obviously, the chat gang. My beautiful wife Cece, taking care of little Nick, and I guess we'll see you guys next week. What do we have? We have something planned? Anything good? We have a good plan yet? No plan. Zero plans. Absolutely.
It's in the mix.
It's in the mix. Oh, actually, I did talk to Steve Tuck, who's one of the guys. He's one of the originators of the marijuana and a few other strains out there. And
That's a good strain.
exactly. And so he might come on the show in a couple of weeks because he was. I saw him going into the whole history lesson online, and I was like, hey, if you want to just come on the show, we can just sort of like lay the shit out, so at least people can go back and it won't just be in a little thread somewhere because he just gets so mad. So as usual, so it's like. But we're gonna have him on the show in the next week or two, and also who else did we have? Oh, we had a guy. We have another group coming up talking about some autos, and they wanted to kind of shoot the shit, so I said no problem. Let's see what we can do, and then I know KTI is going to come up with some awesome shows, right?
Oh no, I've got some
Awesome, yeah, awesome show. Oh yes, and then oh, never mind. I won't even want to. Never mind. Forget about it. I gotta. Oh, it's too good to even mention, but I do have some super secret guests coming on soon. Not on. They'll be on. It's going to have to be by Skype though, but. I laid the groundwork at the Emerald Cup, and it was just. It was literally. Like, the bro show is happening, dude. It's going to happen because I found the rest of the crew who will make it happen because the bro is never going to make it happen on his own, as we all know, because it's been like 5 times we've tried to do this. He needs his crew, his backup crew, and I met up with them, so it was awesome. I was like, all right, guys, you're going to help me make this fucking shit happen. So the bro show, not going to come up with a date, but let's try to get it around the holidays when everything's weird and crazy and everybody's fighting, so we'll just add some more drama to the fire.
Perfect.
And then that will be the breakdown of the sour diesel, pretty much for the reality check. So
Nice.
oh my god, the great mystery. It's almost like knowing Santa Claus doesn't exist at this point, so I'm scared to delve into it too deep because then it's like almost like, oh, that's it, really?
Oh, no.
God damn it, now we
Keep
know.
the mystery alive.
Yeah, it is fun to watch when someone believes, like when Nick still believes, obviously, in Santa Claus and stuff. And so I got on my. Now it's so digital. You go, hey, oh, dude, he's calling you, and then you got, hey, hello, it's Santa Claus. It's like we're in that generation now, and he's like, tell him, call up Santa again. So it's kind of funny to watch because you're like, oh my god, this is
Call up Santa.
That's awesome. He's questioning the Tooth Fairy too. Like, what the fuck is the why? Why would the Tooth Fairy do this?
You're like,
I'm like, come on, just
take your money.
Just take the money. Just take the money. It's a bribe. Don't you understand? It's your first bribe.
Get used to this.
See you guys next week. Hopefully, I don't have to bribe you to listen to the show. So, peace.
Adios.
Thank you.
Practically every one of the top 40 records being played on every radio station in the United States is a communication to the children to take a trip, to cop out, to groove. The psychedelic jackets on the record albums have their own hidden symbols and messages.
A special question. We don't want you to smoke genetically modified ganja. We want you to smoke the real thing. We want you to smoke the natural herb. Some call it marijuana, some call it sensimedia, some call it lamb's bread, and some people call it ganja.